WESWES Show.
Welcome to the back on the 135, Elijah.
Oh, jeez, thank you for having. I got to admit, when you like first messaged me, it would have been a couple of weeks ago now.
Yeah.
My first thought was, oh, hang on, I'm not Daniel Faitawa. I think you got the wrong Pacific journalist. But and then my second thought was, you must be scraping the barrel to get me on the show, because I don't know what I've done to, be on. I've seen the list of guests you've had on, and so many people have done so many like awesome things in their chosen fields and in their industries, and I'm like, oh, jeez, you must be an empty slot someone must have pulled out or something. So no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No, thanks for coming, man. And there's a reason why you're here, because like I've always been a fan of writing, especially sports writing, and for me to see who's out there that's Pacific Islander, Samoan or Tongan, that's writing sports stuff, because I'm a fan. Like, man, I just want to talk to those people, right? So, thank you for coming on board, eh?
Yeah, writing's like, I think writing's always been a part of my life. Like, I was always good at English in school. I was good at maths and English. So I think when I was a little kid, maths was like my main thing. Like, I thought I was going to be like a accountant or something like that, like something to do with numbers.
Yeah.
And then in high school, they started introducing letters, like algebra and stuff.
Yeah.
that put me off. So then I started doing the English stuff instead, and then I don't know, I just enjoyed writing, like what's it called, like fictional writing, like just stories, and I guess now that I'm doing journalism, kind of telling stories of our people mainly, and then on a mainstream platform. So yeah, it's quite an interesting one doing writing.
It's probably it's natural that you say that you enjoyed English in class as a kid, because that was one of my favorite classes at high school, but I didn't know that until later on. It was one of those things where I don't know why I enjoyed it, because I liked playing sport, like PE, going to PE and all that, but then I wasn't really good at maths. I took art and that, but when when I was at high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to be. Right. Even when I finished high school, I still didn't know what to be. So I just went with whatever I passed. So I passed art. So I probably went that way, But I think in the back of my mind, like, because I was good at English and that. But I enjoyed writing as well back in high school. But I never saw that would be like a future kind of job kind of thing. Like, I just enjoyed it because I love watching movies, and I love all these literary things, were interested me back at school, but it's funny, no one got me to go in that direction. It's probably something that I should have done,
Yeah, you don't really think about it because, like, obviously we're both into sports. You don't think about how sports and writing can kind of combine. I think it wasn't until I was a bit older, maybe like year 12, that I started realizing that there's like sports journalism. There's people out there who write about, like, they do the match reports and the things you sort of see in the back of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And then there's people who do like opinion pieces about sports, about why the All Blacks suck or something, or why this player's not doing so well, or why this person should be selected for the World Cup, that sort of thing. But I didn't really realize that until I was a bit older. I still kept my options in high school broad, so I did like the history and geography and classical studies, that sort of thing. Like still English related subjects, but still wasn't sure where to take that. And I think because when I transitioned from year 13 to uni, I took a double degree in communications and law.
Right.
Because I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Like, sports writing was there, but I still wasn't like, I don't know if that's what I completely want to do. So I did the law stuff, hated it. First year, like 1 year of law, I hated it. So I dropped the law side of things and then kept going with comms. And then it probably wasn't until like the second year of uni that I started realizing, I think like I'm a big enough sports fan. Like I feel like I know everything there is about sports, like the stats and like the players and that sort of thing. So, and I still enjoyed writing. Like I still enjoyed essays. Like a lot of people don't like writing essays, especially if it's like 3,000 word essays or 5,000 or 10,000 word essays.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can just mumble jumble through that sort of thing. Like there's a bit of a cheat code to it, but yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, because you wouldn't think that there would be like a pathway that we'd go down, usually like journalism in particular.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's interesting that you said you put in law, because that's probably the thing that all our surviving parents want us to be, like their kids, right? There's always those three jobs: accountant, lawyer, or doctor. You know, and there's nothing else. You know, especially my parents, because you know they came to New Zealand when in the 1960s. You know, so you know having us kids, and then you know just thinking, because back then it's different, right? There's no internet, there's no YouTube. You know, there's only those big money jobs. You know, being a lawyer and doctor. But I think it's just flooded now. There's so many people doing those jobs. Like I think it's hard to get into. There's other options now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a generational thing, but I'm very fortunate that my parents were like they didn't put the pressure on me too much, at least on me and my siblings. I'm the youngest of 5, so I think especially with me being like the child, the baby of the family, there wasn't too much pressure on me, so it was easier for me to kind of find my passion and kind of stick to it. And my parents were just like, you know, do what you got to do, sort of thing. I'm not sure if that's a generational thing with like
it might be because you're the youngest, you got the older siblings to go through it, and then it's like, oh yeah, you know. They probably don't have to worry as much because you've got people to look up to that they go ahead, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty fortunate, pretty fortunate as well, because I'm the only sibling who's down the media pathway. Like we're all in different sort of sectors. Like I've got a brother who does like governance related work, and a sister who's in like nursing, and another brother does like community service. Actually, my other 2 siblings do like community service and do stuff for the community, and then I'm doing like the media side of things. So we've kind of got all bases covered. And then I'm pretty fortunate to have my parents not put too much pressure on me, and kind of allow us to do what we got to do. And I think part of it as well in the back of our minds is just giving back to our parents who made the jump here. Like my parents came here in, was it 81 maybe? My granddad was the first one who came down here. Like my surname, because my name's Elijah Fa'afiu, my surname's technically not actually Fa'afiu, like it's Setafano, but that's because my granddad, like when he came over in the 70s, can't remember what year, but he was deported the first time, and then when he came back to NZ, he changed his surname. So his name was Fa'afiu Setafano, and when he came back, he changed the name on the paperwork to Fa'afiu, so that he could just ride with the Fa'afiu like surname from then on. And then since then, we've kind of just been riding with that surname. So I always joke with people, that's where I kind of got my intelligence from. This guy like my granddad just dodging the officials, you know, switching up his name. But yeah, it's worked out. So
you're also a victim of the dawn raids?
Yeah.
Oh damn.
I don't tell that story to him. I think the first time I said it was like last year. I was going for a presentation down in Wellington. I mentioned that's the first time I've properly talked about that. And I think people don't think like, I feel like a lot of Pacific people who are based here in NZ have been affected in some way, like whether it's directly affected or indirectly, like we've all been affected in some way. And I mean, that's just one of the stories that's come out personally from my family. So interesting.
Well, that is interesting, because when I think of my parents, because they were in Ponsonby in those days in the 70s and stuff, and I never knew any stories growing up. Like I knew about the dawn raids, but at an early age, but it wasn't a big deal really. It was just something that happened and no one really talks about it. So it's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, that was a big deal in the past 5-6 years because of the apology. You know, now there's films coming out, there's podcasts coming out about it, and you know, it's a really big thing now. There's books about it. It's just in the mainstream now, you know. So it is a big deal. But I remember growing up as a kid, like it was never talked about. It was never a thing.
That was the same for me as well. Like I didn't know anything about the dawn raids, but I had classmates in primary school who knew about it. Like they said, it's like a big thing that affected our Pacific community. And I remember they'll ask me like, oh, like why didn't your parents like tell you about it? And I think for some families they don't want to talk about it. Like that's a bit in their past that they prefer to remain hidden. But you know, I do commend anyone that puts out artwork or content out there that's related to the dawn raids, because it's kind of telling our history. You know, you get the show like The Panthers, and you know, is it the perfect show? Not exactly, but it's a show out there that's telling our story in a way. But yeah, I think anyone that puts out content that tells our history, I mean, for our people, by our people, you know, I respect that. But yeah, I think for some people, it's sort of like I don't know if it's like a shame, or like people are a bit like whakama to talk about that sort of thing. because it is a traumatic time. Like we can watch all the content that gets put out, like TV shows and reenactments, all we like, but there's people who are still alive who like live that properly, and that would have been a traumatizing, you know. So I can't imagine what our parents and grandparents went through during that time. But I think the best that we can do for our generation, at least, is give back in a way. And I guess for me, finding a career in writing was kind of how I wanted to give back.
Yeah. Because you know the story about the Dawn Raids and that, and how you're telling me about, you know, there are stories out there. As a journalist, do you feel like some part of your career you want to go back and revisit that and try find out all these hidden stories that have never been told? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, there's definitely stories out there now that have been done about the Dawn Raid, especially during the time when the apology was happening. Like I was fortunate to be at the apology itself, like when Jacinda was making the apology, and there were so many stories leading up to that event and they're coming out of it. I think for me personally, I think it would be good to kind of tell that story, especially if it's your own personal story as well. I think that'll be a bit more like impactful, because there's a lot of Pacific journalists who, as I mentioned before, who are either directly or indirectly affected by the Dawn Raids. I think the more of our people, our journalists, who kind of step up and talk about an incident like that would be pretty neat, yeah. But yeah, that Dawn Raid apology was such a buzzy event to attend. Like, obviously, there was a bit of controversy, well, not controversy, but commentary about how the whole had the follow over Jacinda and stuff, and whether that was like traditional or not, because usually that takes like a few days rather than a few minutes, right? So, but I think the way it happened, the way it played out, I think the government did what they could to make the apology seem as sincere as it was. But yeah, I think because there's also recent times how you hear about that story about how like the Dawn Raids have kind of come back in a way.
Oh, there was one person. There was one person there. Yeah, I remember. Came on the news, and I remember there was a big outcry about it. It's happening again. And then I remember the response was like, "Nah, they went through the process, and this is what happened. Like they were supposed to be deported, you know, but it was like sensitive because it was a Pacific Islander person. So I was like, hey, we just did the apology, now you're doing this. So it's a hard one, eh?
It's tricky because you don't want to like call out people for like reaching, right? Like reaching, like these sort of things that happen to our people. It's like, oh, they've been hard done by, like they're in the wrong. But I don't know, it's a tricky balance, especially being at a place like Newstalk ZB. You know, I think it's not really something that our Pacific people tend to follow.
Because you know the apology, what year was that?
That would have been 21, I believe.
And you were still in uni, or were you working that by then?
Nah, I was working. I was based in Auckland, so the apology happened just before I relocated to Wellington for my political reporter job.
Oh yeah.
So that's a whole different.
Who were you working for then?
I was still with Pacific Media Network.
Oh, okay.
So I did my first few years of journalism with them. So I started in 2020. And then it's funny because I started in Feb of 2020, and then the next month was when that very first lockdown happened. And it's tricky because I was still learning the ropes of journalism, like how to like report and how to write and stuff. And then the lockdown happens, and we could only have like a skeleton crew in the office. So we couldn't have, like, I didn't have my boss there like in person to tell me what to do. Like we kind of had to communicate over the phone and Zoom. And I'm like, oh gosh, like I still have to come into work, and I still don't know how to like be a journalist yet. Like, so having to navigate lockdown plus navigate being a journalist, I had to kind of balance that and go through that at the same time. A bit of a tricky one. And then I was in Auckland for about a year and a half, and then opportunity came up to relocate to Wellington to be a political reporter.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, for people that know me, like politics is not my thing. I must do a really good job at making people believe I am, because people just think I'm interested in politics. Like I'm really not. So they know me as like a sports reporter, and they know I'm into my sports. So going from sports to politics is like jumping from one end of the spectrum to the other. And that was a buzzy time because I had to completely get rid of everything I knew about journalism and just like learn everything about politics. And I had to read up on different things on like how government operates and different laws and bills being passed and who the MPs were and that sort of thing. And completely, yeah. It's hard to believe that I spent like a year and a half just politics focused. And then now here I am back in Auckland back in the sports realm. So yeah, politics, oh geez, I think it seems so long ago, but it was only last year I was doing that.
Oh yeah.
So
Did why they chose you to do that? Was it in no one else, or were you just a qualified journalist that could go down and do that?
So what happened was we had the Pacific People's Minister at the time, Opito William Seal, his press sec came up to Auckland and visited our PMN offices, and he was basically like, at the time there was no Pacific journalists down in they call it the Press Gallery, which is like the group of journos that are based in Parliament, so they call it the Press Gallery. Minister Seal's press sec came up and was like we don't have a Pacific journo down here, like we really think someone from PMN should go down. And we were kind of looking around, and we don't have a big like news crew. There wasn't a big news crew at PMN. It's probably about 4 or 5 journos at the time, and you know, a couple of people couldn't travel for different reasons, like whether it's like family related or like they just couldn't make the jump to Wellington. And then I was kind of the only one who wasn't really doing anything. Like I kind of just put my hand up and it's like, oh, like boss, you should send me to Wellington. I said it was like a half joke, but I guess at the same time, I think I was sick of living in Auckland as well, because I'd been in Auckland for at that point 23 years. I was just sick of being in Auckland, so I wanted to like a change of scenery. I thought Wellington would be a good job. And they asked me like the next week, oh, like, would you seriously consider going down to Wellington? I was like, yeah, I'll go down to Wellington. And next thing I know, I'm on the plane going down to Wellington. So, yeah, I enjoy being in Wellington. So,
so they pay for all accommodation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Work covered that, which is awesome of them. But I think going back to your question about why I put my hand up, like, I was thinking
sick of Auckland.
Yeah, that's probably the number one reason. I was sick of Auckland at the time, but also, as the press sec said, there wasn't many Pacific journos down there. And I'm like, well, if I don't put my hand up to go, like, who else is gonna do it? And I'm usually one of those people that's like, if no one's gonna fill the void, I'll fill the void. Like, whether I'm qualified or not, like, I'll do it because someone's in that space. And yeah, I felt very underqualified to do the role because, again, like, politics not really my thing, and I only knew like the bare minimum about politics. So but yeah, that was a completely different experience in itself. Yeah.
What was the main goal for having a Pacific correspondent down there, or a team down there? What was the goal? Because, you know, when I think about the political news here in New Zealand, there's a lot of networks that cover it. You know, and what's for Pacific point of view? What was their goal? Like, to get a Pacific perspective on what's going on down there?
Pretty much. It was pretty much to get a Pacific lens on things politics related, or at least finding a way that, you know, how like News Hub and One News put their news out. How do we translate that message or simplify that message so that our audience understands, our Pacific audience understands? So
was it a general thing, or was it just finding the Pacific stories only? Or
it's a bit of both.
Okay.
So I think things to do like with the budget, for example, you know, they have the budget every year about what the government spends their money on, and it's just like usually in the lead up to those sort of things, because it happens every year, we'll go out into because PMN's based in Manukau, so we go out into the public and ask the people like, what would you like the government to spend your money on? And then they'll put up different things about fixing up whatever, I don't know, fixing up malls, leaky malls or something like that, or fixing up the roads or that sort of thing. And then it's just those sort of Pacific related stories, because I think 2020 election was when they had the most Pacific MPs. I think it was about 10 or so, or 11. So about 10 from Labour, 1 from Greens. So they I think they felt like they needed someone to tell stories of those Pacific MPs as well. Which, I mean, it's great that they're in those positions, but ideally they would be in like higher positions. Like, for example, Carmel Sepuloni, she's Deputy PM, which is an awesome role. I think it's great to have someone in that space, but I think having someone, I think it's one thing having that role, but I think it's another thing having the impact. And I think, because, you know, our audiences aren't stupid. Like, they can kind of see past the things. Like, they'll see the faces are there representing our communities and representing our people, but I think they care about whether they're actually doing the job and not sitting there in Parliament getting their money's worth.
Yeah, just getting paid.
It's just getting paid.
Because it's interesting that you mentioned the Greens, because they've got that Tongan guy listed in PDA, have they? I remember that, but that's the first Pacific Islander they had since they were made.
Oh,
or something.
Tiana Tuiono.
Is that
He's the one that's currently in Parliament. He's the Pacific MP. I'm not sure if that's the one you're talking about.
And the Greens.
Yeah, in the Greens.
Yeah, because I was reading somewhere like it's about the first Pacific Islander to be in the Greens Party, and it was like something they never had for ages since they started. You know, which was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I think there's more Pacific people jumping in. Like you saw, I'm not sure if you heard, like Efeso Collins is part of the Greens. Like he's running for the Greens in the election coming up.
That's right.
And that's an interesting turn of events considering he was just running for mayor last year.
Yeah,
you know. And I like Efeso. Like we're funny guy. Like we're friends on Facebook because we were keeping in touch. So one of my last big projects was covering the mayor election, the Auckland mayor one. So I would follow him around. Yeah. And do like stories on him because we were connected on Facebook. Like he knew I was into sports and all that, and he's a Chiefs supporter.
Is he? Oh,
so
why is that?
I thought you'd better get him on the podcast and ask. It's questionable. I was like, the guy is running for Auckland mayor, supporting the Chiefs, but he would always send me like screenshots of whenever the Chiefs win.
Oh, okay.
And you know how many times they won this year, so it's pretty funny. He's a funny dude, but yeah, I think it's interesting because I don't know if a lot of people feel that Labour's not the party for them. Like they're probably starting to look at other options like Greens, and I think for some like National is an option for them as well. And it's interesting. It's ever since like those the protests happened in Parliament. Like I feel like there's been a wider spectrum of support, party support. So I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of things, even worldwide, like Donald Trump stuff that happened when he became Prime Minister, and the whole polarizing left and right, social media and everything's, you know, everybody's seen that kind of stuff. During even COVID, you're right, when they did the protest down in, because we were down there when the protest was happening.
I was.
You were covering all that?
Yeah, I was down there. So what had happened was I was there for the majority. That was probably 20 plus days they were out on the front of Parliament. I was there for the majority of it. And I was doing stories here and there. Like there were people in PMN who knew people who were down there, so they helped connect me to those people. And like there was one story I did, like a live cross on the radio where basically one of them like showed me around their camp, and they had like these whole different setups, like random setups. Like one of them, there's a tent of like a massage table. I'm not sure why that. I don't know why that. What's going to help to take the tension off for when they're holding up the signs or something. I don't know, but that's And then the final few days of it I missed because I got COVID for the first time.
Oh yeah.
So I basically had to watch the live stream on, I think it was Stuff or something, and that's when the whole fire thing happened, and they lit the playground and lights, and the police and the process just going back and forth, like scary time, like a real surreal time, because you'll stand all the media. So what happens is that all the media are on this like sort of balcony that's looking out to Parliament, and the protesters can clearly see us. Like we're in clear view of the protesters, and they'll see us and they'll like shout different things at us and have like anti-media signs, like placards and all that, and they're like jeering people, like oh, the media, like mainstream media, like screw the mainstream media, blah blah blah. And like you're standing there and it's like, oh, this is pretty surreal. Like, yeah, I don't know how, I don't understand how people get, well, no, I do understand, because I think, again, with COVID, that pretty much just amplified all the issues that were already existing. Like things like anti-government, like for ages, like a lot of people have been against the government. It's just so happened that when COVID happened, it just amplified even more to a point where they camped in front of Parliament and started shouting messages of hate towards media and the Prime Minister and all that. So yeah, reliving that, I figured that was only start of last year. Like there's a lot of things that have happened, like I forget, it weren't that long ago, and then I remember like 6 months, maybe like 6 months or so after the protest happened, and maybe about 8 or 9 months, because this has been like the Black Ferns had just won the World Cup, and they're doing like their tour of like celebratory tour and stuff, and they ended up in front of parliaments. They visited Parliament, and I just remember standing there, and it was like the grass was all green, and like 8 months ago, like it was all muddy and like brown, and there was like tents pitched up about people with like selling food, and this is like their own little, the protesters' own little community that they had set up, and now it's all like green. Like, it's hard to imagine that that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. It's it was a surreal time, eh? It was like interesting time too, because I remember when COVID first came out, and then we had the first lockdown, and we went through that, and we survived it. I think we were down a month, 4-5 weeks lockdown, and that was the first ever time ever, and we came out of that. Jacinda was the hero, everyone was like, the whole world was praising us for what we did, and we all loved her. What happened was the mandates started. That's what fucked things up, eh?
Definitely, it's tough for some people, because especially people who were in those industries that were affected. Like this, like you understand from how I see it. I understand why she put those mandates through. She was just trying to find a way to keep people safe, and those who were especially immunocompromised, especially like our Māori and Pacific people who were immunocompromised and our elderly and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think those mandates, they don't work for everyone.
No,
that's
they
the
don't.
problem. Yeah, like they could have. I don't know if they could have adjusted the goalposts a little bit to make it work for those people affected. But I don't know. I can't explain it.
Well, I think social media didn't help either, because it was happening all over the world, right? And like, especially America, when you had, like you said, anti-government, and then when you see that stuff on social media, on YouTube, then all the conspiracy theories start coming out, and all these fake documentaries, not fake documentaries, but these YouTube documentaries coming out, telling everyone that COVID vaccine is fake, and it's there to control us,
5G and stuff.
5G and
towers,
all the stuff. And it's like, people believe it because they're already mad. They're already anti-government because they lost their job or whatever it is. It's the whole thing about being controlled. And just what's out there. Like, if you believe, if you're already hating, the amount of content out there to make you even more hate, but you're exposed to all of that, and there's no reasoning, I think.
Yeah, you can tell with like a lot of the audience, a lot of the protesters, like the the sort of crowd that they were people who were already disenfranchised, and people who didn't have access to mainstream media, like, because they already have a distrust of them.
Yeah,
like, as I said, like, because of COVID amplified everything, that distrust grows even more. And they're trying to look at other sources, other avenues to try and figure out what works, like what's reliable. And I mean, it was even a tricky time from a journalist perspective, because there'll be like stuff out there where, like, at times I was questioning, like, was this like even true or not? Like, I'll be like double checking, triple checking sources to make sure it worked down. Because also, as a journalist, you're obviously trying to convey messages to your audiences, and you don't want to relay the wrong, like, misinformation and disinformation, that sort of thing. So it was a tricky time to be a journalist at that time. Yeah,
and probably for you too was like the best time as well, because you're getting hardcore training in your first couple of years.
Talk about diving in the deep end.
Diving in the deep end, man.
Like the first month, like the lockdown happens, and I'm trying to learn to be a journalist, and then now I get shipped off to Wellington. No, I was not shipped off. I chose to go there, go to Wellington, and these protests are happening, and yeah, it's hard to imagine. I've only been doing journalism for 3 years now. Well, no, this is my 4th year now, and now I've already done that much, like, in my career, and I've already seen through those events like that. So yeah, looking back at it now, it's a time. But I'm glad to be where I'm at now, back in sports, the safe haven, you know. Jeez, when in doubt, like jump in the sports team, because it's a lot chill. Well, I say chill vibe in terms of what we wear. Because the other thing I don't like about Parliament is that we have to dress up every day.
Oh, okay.
Like everyone turns up in like button up suits and stuff, button up shirts, and that's not really me. Like I'm very very casual with how I wear my clothing. So I'm glad to be in sports now, where I'm just like I can just turn up in like a hoodie or something, and no one bats an eye. That's just the sports journo things. So yeah, happy to be where I am.
You know, when you're down in Parliament and stuff in the media gallery, like, what was the struggle trying to get your question across and get an answer? Because I guess you're competing with all the other journals that are down there, and there must be a lot of them.
Yeah, I remember my first time I was down in Wellington. So when I went to Wellington, there was no lockdown or anything. Like everything was clear, like we could move freely around. Literally 2 days later was when the Delta lockdown, that August sort of lockdown happened. And I was in Wellington. I was meant to have the week off to kind of settle in and stuff. And now now I hear, there's going to be a press conference at 6 p.m. They're going to announce a lockdown. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I'm just like, I haven't even like unpacked my suitcase yet.
So you know those press conferences we always watch there?
Yes, the COVID ones. Yeah.
The COVID ones. So you were in that room?
That was, pretty much. Yeah. So like my purpose when I first went down there obviously wasn't to be at the COVID press conferences because they weren't really happening at the time. And then now that I was down there, like lucky I was down there, like the timing worked out pretty well. So now I had to go to those press conferences every day. Yeah, that was daily as well, which I forget. But I think Jacinda was good in that she knew how to let everyone have a go. I better be careful about how I say it. I was about to say she's good at how she controls the media. That's not what I'm saying. She's good at how like giving everyone a go. Like she knows that because she has her team around her and they're kind of her eyes and ears as well. So if they notice, oh hey, there's like a new guy here. He's a Pacific journalist clearly. He's trying to get his hand up. So I assume that her team would have let her know, and then she would have scanned the room and look out for me. And if she saw that I had, and I'm like, I'm not one of those people who like likes to shout. The thing about press gallery is they just button, like they just like shout, and like that's not the type of journalist I'm at. I'm very much like patient, like waiting, and that's part me, but it's also part like Pacific journos as well. Like we're very respectful. Like we like to just wait our turn until we get asked. So literally every press conference, like I have a question in mind, and I'm just like my hand's like this, and I'm real shy. So I'll put my hand up, and I'm kind of just waiting. And then Jacinda will catch me in the corner of her eye, and then she'll like, she doesn't know my name yet. I don't think she ever knew my name, because every time she pointed at me, she'd be like, yes. And I'm like, oh, me, okay. And then I'll ask my question. So that's kind of how I roll. Like I was happy as long as my question was being asked and answered. So I was okay playing that waiting game in Parliament. And yeah, I was fortunate that, the Prime Minister was aware of my presence, because like how that pandemic affected Pacific people there. Like it was not pretty, and obviously like there was different bit of controversy around. I forgot who it was. Was it Barbara Drever who reported on whether it was like the family affected was Pacific, and whether it was right, whether it was whether or not it was like worth mentioning they were Pacific. I understood, like for me, like I understood what Barbara was trying to do. Like she was trying to like forewarn our people, like because we were affected by that. So
that's right. There was a family in South Auckland there, and there was maybe the boyfriend or the husband came from Australia. Hey,
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
So and there was a lot of controversies. Like, no, you shouldn't have said that they were Pacific, and but yeah, I understand what Barbara was trying to do. But I also understand why people were mad about it, because like you're just outing like the fact that it was a Pacific family who was affected, and now everyone's going to point the finger at that family and at Pacific people in general. And I mean, and then Ashley Bloomfield came up like a couple of days later, and it was like we don't accept this, like we're not going to accept, like they're not to blame, that sort of thing, like COVID doesn't discriminate, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think the coverage during that time was interesting, for especially being a Pacific journalist, considering that it's your community that's being affected, and at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, eh? Because I'm just thinking about how, every time there's a story, something negative happening, especially in South Auckland, like, it's always South Auckland. Like, it's never suburban Auckland. Because if they say Central, they say Auckland.
And then it'll be like a suburb that's not even in South Auckland. Like, I remember seeing like Point England is apparently in South Auckland.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's not. It's in my backyard.
Or if they say North Shore, they just say Auckland still.
Yeah, they say Auckland.
Yeah.
So.
But if it's South Auckland, it's South Auckland.
Yeah. Like, let's make it clear, it's South Auckland, Yeah, I think that's like the reason why a lot of Pacific journalists get into journalism, because they want to change that narrative.
Yeah.
Of, like, the bad stuff that happens in South Auckland. And, like, yes, there are things that go wrong and crimes. Obviously, it's not always in South Auckland, but then there's good things that come out of things and that come out of those places. And I think that's kind of our job to kind of shine a light on that sort of thing. It's just to counter that stereotype that surrounds South Auckland. And I say this, I'm not even from South Auckland. Like, I'm from Panmure originally. I'm from East Auckland. I think,
because that whole South Auckland thing, that's like, shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. But yeah, you're right, man. Like, we need more Pacific Islanders in the field. Like, when you were coming up through school, was there a lot of Pacific Islanders doing journalism, doing communications, in order to be a journalist?
Oh, in journalism in particular, because the thing was, I didn't major in journalism. I majored in TV and screen. So initially, like, sports writing had always been in the back of my mind, but part of me also wanted to do like sports documentaries, like filmmaking and that sort of thing. I think I just went down the alley of writing. It's just, I knew how to do that well, and I was a bit crap at controlling the camera and stuff as well. I'm not really good at the technical side of things. But in terms of that journalism major, there was probably maybe two or three Pacific people. There's not that many, and there were females as well. So there's not many, like, there weren't any Pacific male journalists who were coming through the game. I'm glad that they're all coming up now. While I'm kind of rising up, yeah.
You've seen that? You've seen more coming through?
I'm seeing more slowly coming through. I think part of it's to do with, because there's different little programs that happen. Like, there was like a public interest journalism fund that the government set up, and I'm not quite sure how much they invested, maybe about 55 mil. And it's basically just giving to newsrooms, like the mainstream newsrooms, and basically just like adding more diverse voices to their newsrooms. That's pretty much what it was set up for. I think if you ask like National, they'll probably think, oh no, it's a way for the government to control who tells the stories like that. I think that's the argument they did set up against the fund. But in the end, like, it was about adding more Pacific journalists, and that political role was part of that fund. So I think it was just an opportunity to have a brown person in that press gallery down in Parliament. But there's also there's a thing called Terito Cadets, which only popped up last year. So Terito is like, they take about 20 plus, well, last year's program at least, they took about 20 plus people who weren't really, like, basically anyone who wants to get involved in journalism. This was like an opportunity, like a cadetship, like an apprenticeship, and they could get paid to be a cadet and learn the trade in different newsrooms. So there were 4 newsrooms that were involved with it. So Pacific Media Network was one of them. NZ like the Herald and stuff, were part of it. News Hub and Whakaata Māori TV. And those 4 newsrooms were able to have different cadets, majority of whom were Pacific, which was pretty cool. And then after that whole cadetship, so that cadetship I think went through the whole year. So and then afterwards, pretty much everyone who went through that cadetship got a role of some kind, like a job out of that, whether it was among those 4 newsrooms or somewhere else. So they were guaranteed something out of it. So I think, and that cadetships back this year, I think they've had to like make it a bit smaller because they must have found some problems with it and tried to tweak it in some way. But those like programs like that is helping bring more brown faces into journalism, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's kind of, because you work for 1ZB?
Newstalk ZB.
Newstalk
ZB, yeah.
So was that 1ZB or was that different?
I'm not too sure. I'm not sure if that's good question. They didn't ask me this in the job interview.
I can't tell them apart. Like there's so many. I know there's MediaWorks, but not part of them.
Nah, so MediaWorks is separate. So that's like so MediaWorks and NZ Me.
So you're NZ Me.
I'm NZ Me.
Yeah.
So NZ Me is like the Herald, Newstalk ZB, but then it's also got like radio stations like Flavor and Flavor because I listen to Flavor. And then MediaWorks is like My FM and George FM and The Edge and all that.
And TV3 and was that?
It used to be. Yeah, it used to be. TV3 is under Discovery now. So Discovery runs TV3. And then MediaWorks also had Today FM, who got disbanded, or they were.
Yeah, that's
they
right.
lost all their jobs.
Yeah,
and
I saw Duncan Garner and
Tova O'Brien.
Tova O'Brien, they were swearing on things because they lost their jobs.
They brought Duncan back to do like a podcast.
Oh, right.
Tova's doing she's with Stuff now doing the election campaign. Yeah,
she's into that. She was one of the reporters in the press gallery during the COVID.
Like Tova was like, I don't know if it's because like I have like, I might as well just say it. She's one of those like, one of my like journalistic crushes. Like she's like she's really good at her job and like, I remember she was in those COVID press conferences and like I remember like she was sitting like 2 rows behind me. And I looked and I was like, oh, shit, that's Tova O'Brien. It's like, because I always see her on TV and stuff, and then you see them in person, and it's like, oh, Buzzy, like these are all the big time journalists all in one room, and like it's a pretty daunting environment to be in. But they're all shaping up for this year's election, which is pretty neat. So I'm gonna be watching it from afar. Yeah. Luckily, don't have to take part in that.
So you're glad you're out of that department? No?
Yeah. Like if I had to describe my time there in one word, it would be like fraudulent. Like I felt so underqualified.
All right.
Like so, but like as I said before, like the reason I took it was because if I don't take that role, who else is going to take that role?
Right.
And I felt like there was a need there for someone to be there and at least ask the questions.
I think big ups to you for going down there, doing something out of your comfort zone, and trying and learning something as well, because you must have learned a lot when you're down there. Like, what's your view on politics now since you've had that experience?
Like I have a respect. Like this is more just because of the media people that are there, and they're usually the ones who are under the most scrutiny because their stories are usually the first ones on the 6 p.m. news or whenever big news breaks. So they're the ones that are breaking. Like I have a lot of respect for a lot of those journos down there because they go through like a lot of nasty comments and stuff, and like for the most part they're pretty good at avoiding them and kind of blocking them out. But I think in politics in general, like the one thing I was told before, this was like my brother like advised me of this because he used to be like a diplomat, so he knew how the whole politics thing. He's just like, don't get stuck in that space for too long because it will just kind of mess you up in a way.
Yeah. Do you see that? Well, because there's been veterans, like Tova. There's Match Mackay. She's always down there. But these political reporters, do you see that with them? Like, they obviously can balance, I guess, since they've been there so long. But they probably love that part of their job, like reporting on the politics stuff.
Yeah, I think they don't care, like that's the reason they do it, like because they love the job. Like politics, like being in the press gallery is like the dream job if you're a journalist. Like it wasn't for me because I obviously came back to Auckland, so. Yeah, but for a lot, like that's their dream. Like they want to like talk to the Prime Minister. They want to interview the Prime Minister. They want to put them under pressure, ask them the questions that they feel that the public wants to know. But yeah, even with MPs too, like I don't get how MPs can last that as long as they do because they're the ones who turn up to work every day and have to face the media, have to sit in Parliament and do all those debates and stuff and. Like obviously there's the case, not the case, but the situation of Kitty Allen.
How she resigned there. She got caught drink driving.
Yeah. But you could tell that she had been she was obviously going through stuff, and there's just a series of events that had led up to the point of her crashing her car and resigning eventually. Like I think that's part of like being in politics does not help because you're in the public eye all the time, and I think the same thing you could argue for Jacinda as well. like it's known that she didn't actually want the prime minister job. Like she just went into that role, and then she just happened to lead New Zealand through all these different situations like COVID and White Island and
and the shootings and the crash.
Yeah, and the shootings as well. Like, and then obviously I think when she left, like, geez, I don't know how her like mental toll must be messed up after that situation. So yeah, politics is a weird, it's a tough space to be in, I think, whether or not you're an MP or a press gallery member. So I think anyone who goes through that is, respect to them.
The amount of times they're in the public eye, like you said, like when we see it, right? We know all the dramas that happen because it's been reported on straight away, And I find a liking to it like American sports does, because you know how they're all in the public eye and all the dramas happening over there, and they get reported on, and drama. That's like the equivalent, eh?
That's how I think that's why I lasted in Wellington for so long, because I was there for a year and a half. And you know how they have like those debates every now and then? I'd always think of it as like it's one team going against another team, and they've got their like star players. Like you've got Prime Minister and then the leader of the opposition going head to head, which is always fun. Like before, because you know how they have that Parliament TV? Yeah. Before I used to like find that boring. And then when I did the job, I found it the most entertaining thing. To watch like, there's some funny stuff that comes out of there. Yeah. And then you can also like, because they're being filmed live, like I always take a sneaky look at the MPs in the background, whether they're actually doing anything or not. Because I feel like there's some MPs who don't really do much. They just collect the paycheck and kind of leave it at that.
Because aren't you supposed to be there at the up top, just sitting down and just watching them?
Yeah, usually. So yeah, all the MPs are down on the floor, and then there's like a upper level where there's a space especially for the journalists, the press gallery, and then members of the public as well. So sometimes they have like tours of Parliament, and they'll usually bring people in from the public in to like watch the debates for a little bit and then take them out. And and there'll be like special events as well, like special speeches, like valedictory speeches, like people who are leaving, and then they'll have their community or family up in the up top watching from there, watching them down below. Like being in that Parliament space was it's such a massive place. Like you got the beehive there as well. So the beehive and then Parliament are all connected together. Easy to get lost in though, like because it's got the same red carpet, it feels like it's got the same photos of the wall. It's so easy to get lost in. Like the amount of times I had to like call people to
find your way out.
Yeah, to find my way in and out. It's a big space, but I think it's a good experience if you're like a journalist coming up. Like it's obviously the end goal for a lot of journalists in the game. I think I was pretty fortunate to have that. At that point, 2-3 years into my career. So yeah, that's definitely an experience I'll never forget.
So when your political work was coming to an end, what was going on? Were you just sick of it and just told you wanted to come back, or they just said, "Oh no, we've got something else for you"? Or how did that end?
So that was interesting, because I've never talked about this publicly, but like at that point my mental started getting like real bad, because I get I don't know if it just happened to fire up like last year, but I used to get real mad anxiety, like around, like being around the other journalists and asking questions, and I was getting bored of my job as well. Like I wasn't hating it, but I was just like, wasn't fulfilling for me. I think if once you're at a point in the job where it's just not doing it for you, like you just need to leave. And I think and the anxiety would just happen like randomly, like. I'll just be there for Mike, like I'm about to ask a question, and for some reason I'll just be stuck. Like I don't know if anyone's had that feeling of like anxiety where you're just stuck and you can't really do anything about it, and everything's going on around you.
Like freeze.
Yeah, you just freeze, like freeze in the moment. That's weird. And then at that point I was like, I need to step out. Like as much as I've enjoyed being in Wellington and making an impact where I can down in Wellington, I need to put myself first. So. I told my boss, I was like, I need to take a break. Like, I'm not doing too well mentally. I explained to him what was going on. He's like, I think like you need to get some counseling and stuff, like work counseling, that sort of thing. So, and that's the first time I ever got like counseling and like therapy, that sort of thing, which is weird. Like, cause I'm not usually, I mentioned off camera how like I'm real closed and like a reserved person. So like sitting in a room talking to a stranger for a couple of hours is not really my thing. Yeah, not like we're doing it now. Eh? but yeah, like that was the first time I went through that sort of thing, like counseling and stuff, and that really helped. That helped clear my mind. But also, I felt that at that point in my career, I was just ready to make the jump, because as I mentioned before, that whole Torito cadetship thing, I knew that after that cadetship ended, that PMN, Pacific Media Network, were going to pick up more journos from that.
Right.
So I think this is a good time for me to kind of make the jump while these have the new blood sort of
come through.
Yeah, come through.
Yeah. And saying that though, is starting out doing the political stuff, is that a good start for anyone's career who wants to take journalism? Because it sounds like you get thrown in the deep end, and it's like crash course into how to be aggressive and how to, get the story. You'll find the facts, get the story out.
I think you have to be like, it has to be a passion. That's the only way you can sort of thrive in that space. I think for me, it was like a challenge. Like I enjoy being challenged. So, taking up that risk, it was a risk for me. It was a risk for me to go from Auckland to Wellington in the first place. So, but I think the passion was never there. But then, even if it was there, I think I would have lost it real quick. But so I think in order to be in that space like of politics, you need to really enjoy being there and having that, I guess, aggressive nature of journalism and asking questions, and that's completely different to how I am as a journalist and how I am as a person. So yeah, I just needed to get myself out of there real quick and transition to something else in my career.
Right. And then the boss said, "Okay, pack up, come back up, we'll put you in sports." Was that how it went?
Well, because at that point, while like my mental health wasn't doing too well, that's when I started looking elsewhere. Like I started looking, because I felt like at that point I'd done nearly 3 years at PMN, and like for those who know how PMN, like when I first started in 2020, the PMN news brand wasn't really big. Like it wasn't as out there as it is now. Like I think out there I think right now it's out there and it's on socials and it's growing and it's got the right people who are there who are passionate about telling those specific stories. So I think for me, yeah, I was ready to make. I felt like I had done enough. Like there's nothing more for me to do. And the last thing I wanted to be was a gatekeeper as well. I think that's the last thing anyone wants to be in the industries. Like I don't want to just like stay and have these new journalists come in and
you're blocking their way.
And I'm blocking their way.
And you don't really want to do that. Their job, I mean.
No, not at all. Like, so I was like, it's let these guys come through to PMN, because I always encourage any like Pacific journalists starting out, if they don't want to go straight to mainstream right away, go to like PMN or go to like a Pacific or Māori like newsroom, because that will slowly like ease your way into like you're still learning the trades. It's just obviously in a different lens that you're working through. And I mean, what I was doing at PMN helped out when I made the switch to Newstalk ZB, because it's pretty much the same thing that goes on. It's obviously just different resources and different people going on there. Yeah.
Like more resources and more money. And
well, yeah, you know how Newstalk ZB is like the number one station in Auckland. Like they've got the people, they've got the manpower. Like it's a massive newsroom. Like their newsrooms was probably the same size as PMN's whole office. Like not just the newsroom, like literally like CEO's room, like finance room, sales room, kitchen. That's how big the newsroom. I remember, my first day like in Newstalk, I was just like, whoa, like it's just so big. Like there's so many journos around. Like I just wasn't used to that. And then I got over that pretty quick and kind of knuckled down and did my thing. So
how much time did you have between PMN and Newstalk? How much? So
I left PMN officially December of last year, so December 22. And then when I applied for the Newstalk job, I got the gig, and then my first request was like, can I have a month off? Because I still needed a break at that point, because I was still trying to find ways to get my head straight. So I asked for like a month off and asked if I could start in Feb, and they gave me that. I think they thought that I was going on holiday.
Oh.
But so they was, oh, you going on holiday? So I was like, oh, yep. Really, I was still in Auckland. I was just chilling, but I needed that month off to kind of get my brain like rejigged and ready for a new chapter. So so that was a decent month and a bit break between jobs.
So when you start working, what was your first kind of thing? Were you straight into the sports side, or was it something else?
No, it's pretty much sports, because the role that I'm in is I'm a multimedia sports journalist, which is what I've always wanted to do. Like even when I was back at PMN, like they knew that sports was my thing, and I told the CEO at PMN when I resigned that he knew that my dream job was always to be a sports journalist in mainstream. So when I told him that I'd resigned, he was like, yeah, no, like go for it. Like he was real supportive. And that's kind of what you want from a boss. So, can't think.
Because what does PMN have in regards to sports? What's their sports kind of department?
Because the news team's not that big anyway. Like it's probably grown to like 9 or 10 people. But when I was there, it was probably about 4 or 5. So you probably only had like, I was essentially the sports guy, but I still had to balance that with other stuff as well, like education and like politics and health and all these other portfolios. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't say there's like a straight like sports journalist. Like they kind of have to balance that with other stuff. But I was just ready to just focus firmly on sports. So that's when that Newstalk ZB opportunity came up, and just jumped right at it straight away.
Because I think they've got their sports show on 7 o'clock weekdays.
Sports Talk,
yeah.
I love the host though, Darcy Aldergrave.
That's
funny
Aldergrave.
Guy, man.
I didn't like his take on Stephen Adams when he was talking about it though. Like he doesn't. Well, I think I heard him a while ago. He said he wasn't convinced of the excuse Stephen Adams had for not playing for the All Blacks. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Like,
yeah, because what was his reason again for Stephen?
Because when he was young, they never looked after him.
Oh, yes, of course.
He couldn't go to tournaments and that because he had no money.
Yeah, I buy that. Like, I think, especially the way that Stephen Adams has grown into the game now. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's a tricky one, especially like with the Basketball World Cup coming up. Like, ideally, you'd like to have someone as notable as that.
I think he's changed his tune though. I think he wants to at least play.
He's just injured, right?
He's injured.
Yeah,
but I think he said he wouldn't mind before he, retires. Like, have at least one international game under his belt, I guess.
It's funny. He's been around in the game for so long. Like, you forget he was drafted in 2013 or something.
Well, he's an interesting guy because of all the money they make over the NBA, right, and all the players over there that are so bling bling, and that guy's the opposite, comes with his jandals and
his hunting gears and stuff.
Yeah,
he's a character.
Dress up, and there was a Paul George's got a podcast.
Yes.
Did you see the part when he's talking about Stephen
Adams? Yep.
About
that
how
story.
He's trying to scratch his
trying
face.
to make himself bleed.
Make himself bleed.
That's such a Kiwi. I don't know if that's a Kiwi thing, or that's definitely a Stephen Adams thing to do.
Yeah. But if you think about his career, who's he played with? Man, Durant, Westbrook, Harden, now Ja Morant. Like Paul George he's played with. It's like, damn, he's played with all the stars.
I think people forget how big of a role he is to a team. Like, we take last season for example. Like, he's playing for the Grizzlies, and he was such a big, like, when he went down with injury, such a big loss. Like, because they didn't have that presence, like that screen setter.
Yeah, that's right.
Guy who could, hold it on the defensive end. Like, Memphis missed that. Like, that's a huge part of their identity. Like, their whole like real grind. Like, they love to grind and stuff. And I think he's such an important player for that team, especially like even his days when he was in OKC. Like, he was such an important player for that team. I think people don't realize it because he's obviously not the top scorer or the like he's not a big passer or anything. Like, but he does his job.
Yeah. And his you're right. It's about his screens, because his screen settings are reasons why the point guard always gets open. And you think of how many points Russell Westbrook scores because of Stephen Adams. He's clearing the lane, and Ja Morant, he benefits off that as well.
And you see how Russ, like, as soon as Adams and Russ split up, like, you saw how much that changed Russ's game. Like, Russ just wasn't the same.
Yeah, that's
same
right.
same sort of player.
I think Stephen Adams he's the last of that kind of center, like the 90s, 2000. Because back then those centers don't shoot threes. You know, they're like Shaq in the middle, just post up moves. But now centers are shooting threes.
Yeah, doing a bit of everything. You're passing.
Yeah, they're playing like guards. You know,
exactly.
You know, and Stephen Adams is the last of not that kind of center. You know.
Yeah, I feel like it'll. I mean, I hope it comes back. Like, I hope there's more of those type of players that come through.
Well, he's found a niche for himself, I reckon, there. Because if he's on the floor, he's making other people score. So, you know, it's pretty good, you know.
I was just to say about the sports talk guy, Darcy. It's like my first time I met him, rocks up in a e-whaikanga.
How come?
So he was like, he just likes wearing it. Like, he's a white guy. Like, he's got no Samoan connections at all. I think he just likes he was saying, because this was around summer when I first met him, and he was like, oh, I enjoyed like the airflow and stuff. And he would just randomly wear e-whaikanga like every night now and then. And I was like, man, I respect you, man. You know, so, yeah, got a brother in here, you know.
He's from England, eh? Is he?
Darcy?
He's got an accent.
Nah, that's just like, it's just a proper Kiwi accent.
What was it?
Yeah. Oh. He's a funny guy. Like, he spent time in England, I think.
Oh, right.
He was telling me stories about how...
it must have been mixed there.
Yeah, must be a bit of mix or something. But yeah, there's some funny characters in Newstalk ZB. There's some interesting characters. Like, because obviously, like, as I mentioned before, about how people hear like Newstalk ZB is like Hoskin and Heather Duplessis Allen and all those big names, that they're the ones that they hear, and they hear their views on different situations, and it can sort of put people off.
Yeah.
But I think, that's the thing about talkback radio. Like, they make those views because they want to get people talking. Like, essentially that's what talkback radio is. Like, you want your crowd, your audience to ring in and tell them whether they agree or disagree or not. But yeah, I remember, like, I first went there. Oh, not first went there, but when I was first thinking about joining, I always had this like notion in the back of my head that's, it's just like a real national party, ACT party sort of brand.
Yeah.
It really isn't. Like, it's
just a right wing.
Yeah, it's just like a right wing like radio station. Like, it's really not like
it's like Fox.
Yeah, like Fox. Yeah, but it's really not, because like the people in there, they're all like different backgrounds and different political views and stuff. Like, I respect that. It's just, I think some people have their voices are a bit louder than others. Yeah, but it's an interesting one being in that environment that's so mainstream like that.
Because I think Mike Hoskins, he's number one broadcaster in New Zealand. Like, he wins awards every year, I think.
Yeah, he won the award this year.
Yeah, and I know why people don't like him, because, you know, he comes across as, but, you know, he's just a rich white privileged guy, you know. And he's talking in what he believes in, you know, and it'll piss a lot of people off, you know. But at the same time, that's entertaining to listen to, because I listen to him. I listen to him in the morning. I don't like the guy, but I like his. I'm interested in his take, because for me, it's like not turning off to these kind of people. It's an insight on what these people are thinking. You know, that's how I see it.
Yeah, because they say things that make people want to call in. Like, at the end of the day, like, like, there's no point having talkback if no one's going to call in, and you're going to put out, like, you need to put out interesting topics, or, I mean, I guess as controversial as some may be, like, it's going to get the people going, and, I mean, it's exposure, I guess. So, I think the other thing is that there's a lot of good people in that environment, and if you're able to separate the person from the politics, then I think it just makes life a little bit easier. I think it's very easy for some people to kind of keep the two together and be like, oh, for that person is clearly a right wing, therefore you should sort of stay away from him. That sort of, like, if they have a differing view from whatever your view is, you should, like, not go near that person. Like, they're the wrong person, wrong crowd to be around. I
find that wrong though. Like, to think that, like, just because you don't agree with someone doesn't mean they're a bad guy.
No, definitely not.
You know? And I think people so quick to, like, disregard to be near these kind of people, but I think that's how you learn. Like, if you disagree with someone, I like to find out where they're coming from. So I can understand, okay, this is why he thinks that. I know I think maybe he is right. I don't know. But I won't know until I talk and, listen to what he has to say.
Yeah,
That person has to say.
Yeah, unfortunate because I'm very like I'm a very open-minded person, so I'm happy to take in like accounts from different people and why they feel the way that they feel, and like I like to use that to kind of formulate. It helps me formulate what I believe and like what I think is right or wrong. But yeah, I think as long as people are able to separate the person from who they're supposedly affiliated with, then that's the way to move forward, I reckon. Yeah.
You working at a place like that, and Mike Hoskins there, and all these big names are there, man. We only know these people because we hear them on the radio or see them on TV, and that's the only character we see. Like, we don't really know the true selves. Maybe we do, but we don't really see it. Well, we don't see it. But when you're in their environment, when you're in their work and you talk to them privately, or you have work do whatever it is, and you just get to know people, like, how different are they from these kind of people? Are they from their character, if it is a character or not, on the radio or on TV?
Honestly, they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like, I can't speak for Hosking because I usually I don't work that early in the morning in the office, so I don't cross paths with him. I usually work in the Arvos, which is when Heather Duplessis Allen's show is on, and she's similar to how she is on air as she is in person. Like, she's very outspoken about her views, and like she backs her views like 100%, and like she can be like confrontational, like as she is on air. But like, I mean, I don't mind that. Like, I think it's not an act. Like, it's definitely not an act. It's pretty much how they are in person. And
she's pretty good, because I've heard her interviews and she digs down.
Yeah, that's what you want.
She digs down for the answers,
Yeah,
I think that's why a lot of people appreciate her.
Yeah, I think it's because I remember the only reason I heard of Heather Duplessis Allen was when she made that comment about Pacific people being leeches. Do you remember that comment? It was like years ago.
I think Sonny Bill responded to it.
Yeah.
On social media.
Yeah.
So that's how I heard it.
Yeah. So that's how I like first heard of Heather Duplessis Allen. So obviously, like, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, like, she's not a good person, that sort of thing, blah blah blah. But then you see them in the office and stuff, and like they're good people. Like, obviously they may have views that are different from yours, but I think as a person, like, they mean well. Like, they seriously believe what they're talking about, and clearly the people listen, the audience tunes in, so yeah, can't complain, I guess. Yeah.
I'm always fascinated at how people working in the corporate world, because it's predominantly white, it's white run, and it's how do we be in that space with our culture, and it's kind of hard because you mentioned it before, how you were as a journalist down in the media gallery, you weren't aggressive, you just put your hand up like quietly, and because that is us, we're respectful in that. But the Balangs, they're not like that, the opposite. If you want something, you gotta go take it. You gotta put your, you gotta sort of like throw everyone out and go in front.
Yeah, that's one.
You gotta push in there.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things I learned being in Wellington. I'm fortunate that I learned that. It's funny because the journalist who taught me that the most was Barbara Drever. Now, Barbara Drever's not in the press gallery, but there'll be like times where she'll come down for like a big story or that sort of thing, or we'll be on like international trips. And then there was like one occasion we were in, I believe in Fiji. There was like a Pacific Islands forum, like where all the prime ministers and all the leaders of all the Pacific countries have their big like gathering and stuff. And we had the press conference with the prime minister, and we're all standing there, and I'm still putting my hand up thing, waiting sort of thing. And Barbara like, can clearly see me because she was one of the first people who asked her question. Yeah. And she's looking across at me, and then I like can see her in the corner of my eye, like staring at me. So I look at her, and she's like, "Jump in!" Like, she's literally like whispering, like, "Jump in!" And then next thing I know, I jumped in. Yeah. And then yeah, I think we had she was mentioning afterwards, like you have to put you have to just take that risk, like not risk, but you kind of just have to put yourself out there, because that's the only way you're going to get noticed.
It's almost like we got to take our rules away for the Barangi. like, you know how we're respectful people. We respect our elders all the time. You know, those rules go out the window when we're in the corporate world, eh?
We pretty much,
But in a smart kind of way, not like
yeah. It's not completely getting rid of them.
yeah.
Like you can still like
It's not our thing. Is what I'm trying to say. It's not our sort of nature to be like inclined. You know, to be aggressive.
yeah. I think we need to get like more of our Pacific journalists like understanding that. Like
Yeah. Because you know how Heather is when she's interviewing,
Yeah.
she's digging down.
Yep.
Like we'll never do that.
no,
We'll never be
Nah.
that. Eh?
like as soon as we get a bit of like there's a bit of like a bit of tension or confrontation, like we just like
Yeah.
next question, you know. So I think there's not many Pacific journalists you can say out there who are good at that sort of thing. Like Barbara Drew was probably top of the list. You can really knuckle down and like dig deep. I'd probably say like someone like Indira Stewart is probably someone else that I've noticed can do that. I mean, she was doing breakfast for ages, so I've seen her doing that. But yeah, I think we just need more of that, and like kind of, it's not throwing everything out the window, because you're still gonna come back and tell your story from your Pacific lens, for example, if it's needed. So it's not completely dropping your values, but I think it's just understanding that you need to have that balance.
Or understanding the Palangi world, how they work, and try and sort of change towards that. Eh?
Yeah, it's just trying to find. Yeah, it's not completely changing who you are. It's just like kind of adjusting.
Just know how to work in there.
Yeah, just work in that world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's I'm still trying to learn at the moment, being in because there's not many brown people in Newstalk ZB, like. Because Newstalk ZB shares a newsroom with NZ Herald, like we're all in one big newsroom. That's kind of how the setup is. And there's probably like 2 other brown people I've seen in the newsroom, and they both work for the Herald. And then I do Herald part-time and as well as Newstalk. But I think for me, I'm just still trying to navigate that world as well. So,
yeah. It's pretty cool when you're reading the Herald and you're reading this article and then you see a Pacific Islander name as the person that wrote the article, and you're like, oh wow, that's so cool. You know, I saw your name on one of the things. Oh man, that's cool. How people are doing that stuff. I saw that there's a girl there doing the Pacific stuff.
Yeah, Moana.
Yeah.
So she's got her own like section of like she's the Pacific editor. So I think it's called Talanoa, which is on the Herald website. And she pretty much is telling Pacific stories every single day. Like that's her column. Yeah, that's her column. Pretty much like that's her. So that's pretty cool. I think, but we need like more voices to help her out, so she's not the only one telling those sort of stories. So yeah, it's just trying to find a way to get more brown faces in there, I guess. Yeah.
So do you interact with the other sports writers there, like Chris Ratui and
Rats?
Gregor and
Rats was the first person I met on my first day. Because I remember my first day I turned up and I didn't have like a swipe card to get in. Yeah. I sort of just followed someone, and they like opened the door, and then I just like snuck in behind them, grabbed the door as it was about to close, and then I sat down, and I was kind of just waiting around for my boss. Like he wasn't here, he wasn't at work yet. I just happened to come early, and then Chris Rats we call him, Rats was there, and he's like looking at me. He's like, he was looking at me as like, oh, you lost, like, okay, sort of thing. He's like, oh yeah, like it's my first day there. It's my first day there. Nice to meet you. I'm Elijah. He's like, oh, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you and stuff. And then I got to know him. He like his stuff and his columns are pretty cool. Like controversial sometimes, but like again, like he's someone else you can kind of push buttons when it needs to be pushed.
He does, and I was going to ask you what he's like in real life, because a lot of my friends that read his stuff, they sort of, because we got this chat, you know, and they come on, man, see his article, man, what an ass, like, I can't believe he said that, blah blah, you know, like he's a real controversial way, and like he's got these takes where I know it makes people mad sometimes, you know.
It's not like, obviously, it's not like the shared view of the wider sports team. Like everyone has their own differing views on different things. It's just, you know, obviously Rats has his column where he posts what he feels is the hot topic of the day. So but like in person he's a real cool guy, like real nice, and he's not in the office as much because he spends some time working from home as well. Right. So but when we do get to see him every now and then, yeah, it's easy, it's a joy to be around. Yeah.
So when you started working there, were you straight into writing, or what was your first kind of stuff?
Yeah, so because my day-to-day job is the radio side of things, so Newstalk ZB, so it's pretty much just like interviewing people over the phone, cutting the audio up.
Are you on air?
Not yet. So I'm getting voice training at the moment. But at the moment I'm like contributing to news bulletins, so like writing up stories for the newsreaders and stuff, the sports newsreaders. So yeah, usually like a process will be like interviewing people, cutting up the audio, and you got to cut it into like short little audio bites. And those are usually like the clips that play like when the person reads the news, and then Sam Kane said this, and then the audio clip will play, and that's kind of like my job. So at the moment, and then the Herald side of things, I was just like, I've always been keen on writing, so I just asked like my boss is like, oh, is it cool if I just contribute to writing to the Herald side of, and he's like, yeah, like the more voices we have, like the better. And yeah, so since then I've started contributing part-time to the Herald, even though it's not, it is part of my job description. So yeah, I do enjoy doing both Newstalk and Herald. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you work during the 7 o'clock, the sports talk?
Sometimes, yeah. So mainly my job is like the afternoon/evening reporter. So I usually start like afternoons, which is nice. I have a nice little sleep in the morning. And then my job is basically just to set up for the next morning. So that's pretty much just doing your interviews that afternoon or that night, cutting them up and then saving those stories for the next morning. So the news stories you usually hear in the morning are probably done by the person the night before.
Right.
Because at that point, like our news bulletins run until 6 p.m. 6 p.m. is sort of like our last fresh one. And then 7 p.m., 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight are all like different kind of, it's just like stuff that's already played during the day.
All right.
So that's usually how there's a lot going on radio sides. It's just I'm trying to explain it in a way that's easy to understand. But yeah, you kind of have to be.
It's sort of like there's a story, you got to go out there and get the interview, and then you just cut it up for it to come on when it's time to come on.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the job.
Like there's 8 o'clock one, 8:30, or every half an hour there's news there.
So every half hour during like the breakfast show, Hoskin show, and Heather Duplessis Ellen show is every half hour. But then for the most part is every hour. So it's cool. That's the cool thing about radio, I guess. It's just like it's constant, non-stop. Obviously, like TV journalism, they're aiming towards 6 o'clock. That's their big thing. And then for us as radio, like we got to go every single hour. So if we have to chuck in something for the top of the hour, then that's sort of our job. So yeah, it keeps us under pressure, but like a good pressure. So yeah, that's what I enjoy about radio. Yeah,
it's can you explain, like, because sometimes when I listen to Talkback and they have these correspondents from overseas, they're ringing, like might be someone from America or Australia, and then it seems like they just cut them off like straight away, like, and move on, and just, like they're not, like they're being cut off at the end of it. Like they might be into a conversation and they just cut them off because they have to move on. I'm like, man, are they like
you want to hear more?
But no, I'm just thinking on the other side, I think, oh, fine then, if I cut me off, like, but I know it's not. They won't be doing that because it's part of the whole. They understand they need to cut and go. Like,
yeah, I saw those correspondents.
That's just funny
radio.
To me.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
I think it's just like, it's like, sorry, we're out of time. Like we're gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah, but they didn't even say that out of time. They just cut and then move on.
Yeah,
but it's like, oh, the other guys were thinking, oh, okay then. Thanks.
Yeah, I think I'm sure the correspondents like understand. Like they've probably been cut off how many times in their careers. They're probably just used to it at that point. But yeah, radio is such like it's very like down to the second. Like it's like, well, we need to be on at this time. Like this interview needs to happen at this time. Like because any time that you fall behind in radio, like you obviously have to cut stuff off, like cut segments or, and that's the last thing you want to do. You want to try to keep your show as jam packed as possible.
It must be stressful, isn't it? Is it stressful, like to get deadlines and?
Hard to say because I'm not like a producer, so it's probably But like, I imagine for them it would be quite stressful, trying to fit in as much as possible into that. And then there's also like ads that are playing as well, because that's the thing about talkback, like commercial radio. Like you got to play ads to please your advertisers and stuff. So you got to have time to fit that in, and then you've got the news bulletins, and the news bulletins can't run over a certain time, otherwise the radio show's gonna have to cut something off, and they're gonna be pissed off if the news bulletin. Like it's just it's one big like clock, like one big machine, like clockwork, like
I feel if we're not listening, it feels so flawless, you know. But I'm sure it's hectic behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes it's hectic. Like, there's people running around and
exactly
pressing buttons and stuff, and but on air it comes out smooth. So
and any radio host that talks, like, I'm impressed that they just continue talking, you know, and they're like up and down with their voice. And then it's funny because sometimes when they get someone to call in like an interview and they're like dry and they don't even talk much, and I hear the frustration on the host there, like, oh, thank you very much, cut. And then, man, that was a useless guy. Like, you know, that's what I'm thinking.
I'm not sure how they decide like which callers to let through, because I'm sure the process is like they call through and then the producer will be the first one to check in. It's like, hey, what do you want to talk about, blah blah blah, and then they'll put them through to the host.
But it's not even like a random caller. It's like sometimes it's a organized interview, like someone.
Oh yeah,
and they're like dry airs.
Like talent's a big thing in radio. Like you need to be someone who is real, like, well, one is interesting, like, and confident, and like just won't bore people. Like so. Like I know there's probably been people in the past who have been on like once in their life and they never get asked to come back on again because they're just that bad of a talent. Like talent's like a really big thing for like radio and even TV as well. Like you'll find like the reason the same people keep coming on is because they're like interesting and like they do like panels and stuff, and they usually bring like the same people through. It's because they're just interesting. So that's usually how the process works, I think. So
your the sports side of things is just Herald at the moment, is it?
Newstalk and Herald. So I do both. I do both brands. So I'm pretty fortunate to do that in one. Having both brands in one newsroom, so that I can just jump across both when I need to. Because I think they know that I'm good on the writing side of things. So, but at the same time, my day-to-day priority is radio. So it's just trying to keep that balance. Of contributing where I can to Herald without taking away from my radio side.
Because every time the news comes on, there's a woman that talks the news, and then there's a man that talks the sport part.
Yeah. So those are the news readers.
Yeah. So is that your stuff that they're reading out?
Yep. So those intros and stuff that they read out is usually what I've written. So at the moment I'm doing like voice training at the moment, so they're trying to get me into the booth to do some news reading at some point. It's a tricky one, man, because like when I talk normally, like I'm very like my mouth's real closed, but like it's a news read, like it's a whole art behind it. Like I don't think people realize that it's not just like you jump in the booth and you just read what's on the thing. Like you're trying to tell a story, but you're also trying to like enunciate and like widen your mouth.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't widen my mouth too much, so I've been getting voice training. They're teaching me like these different breathing exercises because that helps you out with when you're reading, so you're not running out of breath when you're doing lines, and like the people who are listening can't hear you like heavily breathing, that sort of thing. So like it's a whole skill that people don't realize it. But yeah, like news readers, they just make it seem flawless. So I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, because you know when I'm editing the audio from this, like, it's the breathing in between the words. But they don't naturally. They don't do that. They don't have that because they naturally know how to not do that.
Yeah, because they probably do those breathing exercises. So, like, probably just like, I think it's posture as well. Like the way they.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of them tend to stand when they newsread, which is a lot easier than if you're sitting down. Like, I'm not sure how they explain it to me. It's to do with your posture, like your body and stuff. I don't really.
Yeah.
Know too much of it. I just listen to what they say and I'll do it. But it's also like just enunciating your words, so pronouncing every single letter, like T and your G's and your like K's and all those like hard letters, and not just like mumble jumble, like because people aren't going to understand you. Like it's an interesting one. So I'm in the process of getting there. So hopefully I'll have some time. Yeah.
Well, podcasting, you don't have that problem. You just talk how you talk.
Yeah, you have it lucky, man. Jeez, I'm jealous. You can just talk however you want. You don't have to worry about pronouncing words, enunciating words, and yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like pronunciation of names, like Pacific names. Like I think that's a big role for news journalists, and like it's very easy for those mainstream ones to get it wrong.
We're pretty good at doing it in New Zealand, eh? Now, because I hear, we're not like NRL, and those commentators are like getting
those
all
Aussie
wrong.
ones are terrible, man.
Terrible, man. But I noticed the past few years now, like the newsreaders are pronouncing the Māori names right now, and my friend who's a police officer, they have to do the same too, like the street names and stuff like that. They have to actually, they were told that they have to learn how to pronounce the names properly.
It's I mean, for one, it's a person's name. Like it's like it represents everything about them. Like if you screw that up, then it's a bit disrespectful. And even like learning that through when I was at PMN, like how important it was to say Pacific names, because I'm not the best at well, for one, I don't speak Samoan, so I don't like pronouncing names was a bit tricky for me when I first started. But now that I spent my time at PMN, I have a better understanding of how to say things, like whether it was Samoan or Tongan or like Fijian, like because the way they say letters is different.
Yeah, that's right.
Like Niue as well, like the way certain letters are a bit different as well. So learning about that, and then jumping over to Newstalk, I was completely expecting to like have to teach people how to pronounce things, but it's not the case. Like they do a pretty good job of like researching, and they're real like they're real strict about it. It's like, hey, like make sure you get this pronunciation right, and yeah. So yeah, that's a lot of progress has been made on that side of things, which is cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice Heather, she's good at pronouncing.
Yeah, I think she's taking te reo classes.
Is she?
That's what I heard.
That's cool.
Yeah, because it was the...
It's working. She gets it right.
Yeah. I think it's cool that if people are taking those sort of language classes and getting a better understanding. So, yeah, like she'll come in the office every now and then and be like, kia ora, and blah, 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 and that sort of thing. I was at the radio awards, so this is the first time. This would have been about June. And this is the first time I've spent time with my with my sports team, like outside of work. And like at that point, like I was pretty like reserved and stuff, and pretty quiet up until that point. Like I was still new, trying to like figure things out, sort of thing. But geez, that was a good time, eh? Like radio awards is a funny time because people from radio are like different personalities coming through. So there's people from NZME and there's people from Media Works and RNZ and stuff who are all coming, and like funny people on air all coming together in one place. And then I remember there was like the Heather was one of the hosts. There was 3 hosts, and there was one of the guys from PMN was being honoured, which is pretty cool to see. And he went on stage, and then the guy who was with him went on stage. And you know how Heather's married to
Soper.
Barry Soper.
Yeah.
He goes up on stage, like Tongan dude, like he was the founder of 531 PI. He's like, goes up on stage, is like, hey, it's good to see my mate Barry Soper here tonight. Hey, just make sure you don't tell Heather about that night in 1984 in Fiji or whatever it was. And everyone's just like, oh, what the hell's going on? And I'm sure, like Heather's just standing there. I'm sure she was like, I don't know if she was like taking it as a joke. I'm sure she was taking it as a joke or something.
1984.
Was it? 1984 or something like that. Yeah.
They were together, weren't they, back then?
No, they weren't together, but like obviously like Barry was like a bit younger, and it was like probably, I don't know if he was a single man or something, and then the other guy just happens to be there with them, and probably some hidden stories to share from there. So but the radio was just fun time. Like it was a good time to let loose and interact with people from other radio industries. That was the first time I've been in like a major awards show like that, and I was like, man, I'm like watching all these people get the awards and stuff. I'm like, man, that's like a goal you want to strive for one day, like get those awards. Usually I don't care about awards, like, because they're just like, it's more like impact. I'm more like, if it makes an impact on people and the community, then that's kind of my number one thing. But it'd be cool to kind of be recognized for your work one day. So that's kind of what I'm striving towards at the moment. Yeah.
Do they have an award for writing, or is it other awards that you're?
Yes, that's like the Herald stuff has a separate awards. I think it's like they're called the Voyager Media Awards. So basically they're competing with like Stuff, because Stuff is the Herald's main competitor in terms of sports and stuff. So and then there's obviously the radio awards and there's the TV awards. So there's different media awards that go on. So yeah, one of my goals is to, in the next couple of years, is to get to get a award. So hopefully we'll get there one day. So
yeah. I stopped subscribing to the premium. So I was subscribing to premium because I always got the because it was like a deal. It was like $1 a week for 3 months or something. So
it spiked up.
So I got that, right.
Yeah.
This was like last year, beginning of last year, or maybe 2 years ago. But I got a deal and they came to the end of it, so I was going to cancel it because I was going to go back to $20 a month. So I was like, nah. So when I rang up, because you couldn't cancel it online, you had to ring in. So okay, so I rang in, and then the person on the line said, "Oh, do you want us to? How come you wanna? Why do you want to stop your subscription?" I said, "Oh no, I think $20 is a bit high, and yeah." And then, "Oh, do you want us to continue on the $1 a week for another 3 months?" I said, "Oh yeah, sweet, yeah, I'll stay then." So I did that. Then end of that 3 months happened again. So I rang up to cancel. Same thing again. Another 3 months, $1 a week. And then it came back down. It happened again. Rang up to cancel another. So I've been doing that ever since, man.
Yeah. It's interesting because I every time I like post a story on the Herald, like I always share it on some of my social medias and stuff. And there's usually people who ask me like, "Why is it on premium? Like, can you?"
Yeah, because Stuff doesn't have that, eh?
Not yet. I think they're getting to that point.
Oh damn.
So possibly, probably jump on their side as much as possible if you can. But I do get messages from people like about why it is what it is, like why it's hidden behind the paywall. I don't know. I feel like I think some journalists just feel like that their work should be they put so much effort into a lot of those feature pieces, and because a lot of those stuff that's behind premium are like long-term pieces, like, and I think for them it will feel like a waste if it's just given out for free. But if you think about like newspapers as well, like obviously you had to pay for a newspaper back in the day. I think this is just a similar thing this time around, just online. But like the funniest one is every time Tim Provides, he'll message me. It's like, it's behind the paywall again. Every time I share a story, so I'm like, bro, it's only like $20. Use that, crowd goes wild money, man.
So do you get some of that percentage of that paywall?
Like there's incentives that you get. Like if you read, like we have targets for how many premium subscribers.
Because I guess they all got all the data of people clicking on the article. Yeah.
So we usually get that data like every week or every couple of weeks about how we're tracking along, because we have goals, like target goals, every month sort of thing. So if we reach this target by the end of August, for example, then usually we get some sort of bonus or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
that's good though.
Yeah, it's a good incentive for like us Herald people. So I think it just puts more motivation for us to put out some good pieces, and it's just making sure that they're good pieces as well. Like they're not just like half-assed, like you interview this guy and it was like a bad talent, but you're trying to make a good story out of it. Like that's not something people are going to pay for. Like probably like one of my favorite pieces is probably when I went to Melbourne for Joseph Parker's last fight.
I read that piece.
Yeah,
it was a good piece.
That was one of my favorite pieces.
I loved how you structured it too. Like you had the time, and because it was 3 days, or 2 days.
2 days, but like split into like 3 segments. I guess,
and I loved that because you actually told a story, and I loved how because you had to follow him around and all that, but you wrote it like it was a book. The first paragraph or the first, But that stuff. It's when you talked about how Joseph came to meet you, got up in the morning and blah blah blah, but you knew that because you asked him, and you just write about how he got up in the morning.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right.
So you should just ask him those sort of things, and then he'll say, like, "Oh yeah, I was doing this and that," and then you kind of just turn it around to sound like a yeah, like Joseph, it's not like you're actually there, like in the room, like watch them get up and So yeah, I think that's the art of like writing, like these little like even those quotes were just things that like little comments that they said, and I just had to quickly like jot them down and like and can keep track. And then those times, like I don't know how accurate those times were, but I remember just checking my phone every now and then whenever something big happened, and I'll just like try and write down the time as close to it. So those behind the scenes stuff was pretty cool. Like especially someone like Joseph Parker, who's just trying to get his way back to the top, and he's completely switched up his diet. And you meet his team as well, like because his wider team have stories as well to tell. So I think that's the cool thing about journalism and storytelling in general. Like it's not just one person, one main character. Like there's other characters as well who have something to share. So I think telling their stories in a way, and that Joseph piece was pretty cool. So that's probably one of my like highlights to share, to be honest, doing that thing. Yeah,
I could probably tell when I was reading it because it was so detailed, and you had a cool angle too. How you're like witnessing what's going on, and you're just writing it like it was a book. I really liked when you said the last bit when the family came in the car, and you said, Joseph's in the driver's seat. You know, that's like a pun, right? He's in the driver's seat literally, but he's won the fight, so he's he's on his way to carry on his career. You know.
So that actually wasn't my line. I didn't write that last.
Oh come on, man!
Don't tell me that. Usually, sorry, spoiler. Sorry, everyone. Sorry to disappoint. Because I went over the story. So I had like my whole the way that I had written it first. And then I put that in, and then I had a chat with my editor over the phone, and he was just making little tweaks here and there, because obviously you need like a second person to look over your work so you're not going crazy and thinking you're repeating stuff. But funny story out of that, like I was talking about how Joe had his like music playlist, and he
that's right, and you said it was all these 80s
like 80s rock, tunes and stuff. Like
soft rock stuff.
Yeah, soft rock, like a bit of like Frankie Valli, Four Seasons, Whitney Houston, and then his like music playlist leading up to the fight, like it got more like intense and stuff. And then I said one of the songs was Scribe, and I called the song How Many instead of Not Many.
Oh, okay.
And then my editor corrected me, and he's like, oh, it's Not Many, And he's like, no, I know, like don't And he's like, mate, you got to. I was like, bro, you got to revoke my card, bro. That's bad, because usually I'd remember that sort of thing about. I think it helped because like I'm into music, so it helped that I recognized the songs. Like I don't know if many journalists would have that sort of edge to them where they can recognize the song. Like they probably have to ask, hey, what song is this playing, or blah blah blah. But I think I was just fortunate that I knew that, had that background to understand the type of music and just the vibe as well. Yeah, that was a cool experience. And Melbourne's a great city too.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love Melbourne. Like, I'd move there if. Well, I mean, I'm not sick of Auckland anymore. I'm glad to be back, but yeah, Melbourne would be a place I'd definitely move to. It reminds me of Wellington in a way, which is interesting because some people say it reminds me of Auckland, but it gives me very Wellington vibes because of how artsy it is, like very arts heavy. But yeah, that was a good week also that I spent there. So yeah.
That's cool, man. I love the writing process there. I love, because I told you we got our website, and I dabble in a bit of sports writing, and I find it really fun to do. Like for me, it's starting the piece, because you really want to start with sort of like a bang. Because I think the thing is to keep them reading, because this day and age of the TikTok era, people just scrolling through, not going to last long.
Attention span's not
long, So you got to smack them with something. And then after that, you got to make them stay there.
Keep reading,
Keep reading. Like, it's kind of hard to do, but I think if you're creative enough and you like sort of tell it like a story or I don't know. I like I say I wrote something about the rivalry between the Crusaders and the Blues, and I took it all the way back to the 80s when Auckland Rugby just killed everybody, and I was talking about how it's not like that now because the Crusaders are the team right now, and and nobody recognizes that rivalry anymore because Blues has been not great for so many years, and Crusaders been winning pretty much every year. So I was I was writing about how it's still a rivalry to us, to Aucklanders, even though the rest of the country might not think it is, but it's still a rivalry. So that was my idea, right? So I was trying to come at it at like a personal kind of way, but make it interesting, because if it was too personal, people would think, well, this guy's just talking about himself.
Wait, when did this guy play?
Rubbish.
Yeah, when did this guy play for the Blues?
Yeah, that's rubbish.
You remember? Yeah.
So it's all the stuff that comes in that, and then I write it, and then I'm like, nah, I'm always thinking someone will read it and get bored and start reading. So I have to always trying to,
I think that's why I enjoy those like long long form pieces.
Yeah.
There's no rush to kind of put that, like, you have time to think and be creative with what you want. And that's kind of the process I'm at with my writing, like trying to, if I do these long form pieces, like how can I be creative? Like how can I capture the audience's attention? Like obviously it's more than just headlines as well. Like, because the headline is the very first thing that people will read, and sometimes it can be a bit clickbaity, and it's just trying to make sure it's not too clickbaity, and then that first initial paragraph just needs to hit. So that's kind of the process. Yeah, it's an art, like basically. Like match reports are different because like you have to get them out straight away.
Yeah.
So you don't really have time to be creative or think, unless you're like, you've been thinking about it all game or 80 minutes of rugby.
But it's mostly facts, those ones, eh?
It's mostly facts, those ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not really big on match reporting, like just straight reporting. Like I'm more just like telling the personal story or telling those are the type of stories that I enjoy telling. Yeah, it's an art. Like it took me time to kind of get to that personal level of storytelling, or at least that creative way of getting things. But yeah, it's just like going over it over and over again. It's just a repetitive sort of situation. But yeah, I think like you said about how you're doing your website at the moment, like that's kind of how I started, because there was a period. So I graduated in like 2018 from AUT, and then there was a period for about 6 months where I was unemployed. I wasn't working because I wasn't quick enough to snatch up a job or anything like that. So I spent 6 months of doing nothing. And then during that time, I was trying to find different creative things to do to kind of keep me busy. One idea was to do a YouTube channel. So I made because I had my TV degree, so I was like, I'll just make some episode. I was trying to do like an episodic series. I don't know about what, it's just random stuff. And I did that. That's not on YouTube anymore, so no one can find it, luckily. But and then
Deleted
the other
channel, eh?
yeah, I've deleted it. Gotta get that stuff in the past, so keep it hidden. But the other thing was to do like sports writing. So I made this like sports page / website, and I used that to I was a big fan of like writing lists, like top 10 like NBA blah blah blah, top 10 like rugby players right now or something like that. So I based my like website off that. It was just like an easier way of like, it just kept me busy as well. Like it kept my juices flowing, like creative juices flowing, especially with writing. So and it didn't lead to journalism straight away, but I think by the time I got into journalism, it helped that I had that background,
right?
That those skills in my back pocket that I sort of taught myself. So I think it's just starting there, like starting out as a hobby, and then eventually turns into something full time. So we all start somewhere. So.
The making a list is interesting, especially of sports, because that is a topic everyone talks about with their mates on Monday after the weekend of games, or anytime everyone wants to hear a list, because everyone's got their own opinion over who's the top of the list and who's usually the top 5 or anything, top try scorer or top prop, or blah blah blah. Like you can get how many conversations out of that topic, like any kind of list. It doesn't have to be sports too; it can be movies as well. But I think we need more of that. I think the Herald does have, sometimes I see some top 10 lists, or someone has an opinion. I know they have the player ratings. Yep. With the All Blacks
after the games and stuff. Yeah, like I did a top 5 list during Joseph Parker's fight week. It was just like 5 things that Joseph has to do to get back to the top, basically. That's free to view, so that's there for it. But yeah, I think more top 10 lists. That it's just easy to read as well. Like rather than just reading like something long form and it's just like it drags out, it's a little bit boring. Like it's just something that's just like it's got each point that talks about.
And you're always gonna leave someone out that someone else is gonna go, hey man, where's that guy?
Yeah, it just creates like discussion, which is cool, which is what you want out of your pieces. Yeah, I think the reason I started doing lists is because I was watching there's like Watch Mojo on YouTube and stuff.
No, what's that?
WatchMojo.com is like, I don't know, it's .com. WatchMojo is like a channel on YouTube. They just basically just like top 10 lists. It's mainly just about
I've seen that.
Movies and entertainment or like pop culture things. I think I just started watching those lists and I was like, I'm sure we could do something like sports related and like.
Oh no, there's heaps of examples in the States of the top 10.
Yeah.
Who do you like? Did you have any people you followed, like in terms of writing, like that inspires you in that?
Not really. Like I mainly because I wasn't thinking about doing writing at the time. Like my first initial goal was like TV journalism, and sports writing kind of just came later on. But I would read like the Herald paper and like the back pages and stuff. I wouldn't read who the author was. I would mainly just read the stories and stuff, and if I liked it, and so I didn't really follow anyone. Like I kind of just wrote from. I think for me it was just writing from like, I guess it was a personal story, like writing from the heart and yeah, that sort of thing. So I wouldn't say I followed anyone. Just trying to create my own template sort of thing, Yeah.
When I was younger, I used to get remember Slam magazine?
Yes. Yep.
That magazine back in the days, and man, I just loved the stories in there, because they were like, there was one writer there called Scoop Jackson. Do you know? Scoop Jackson, he wrote for Slam. Man, his stuff was amazing. Like, he's African American, and he wrote like he's an African American. Like, he had hip hop in his writing. Like he referenced hip hop, and he talked about the players. Like, the headings were mean. Like, and wow, it was just awesome. Like, I never read anything like that before, and he's African American, so because he was talking like it, and like. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, you should have a look. I don't think he works there anymore. He's I think he does random. He worked for ESPN after that, and then but now you should look him up. Some of his stuff, and then I was like, that's where I got my inspiration from. I was like, man, what if I wrote stuff, but I talk like a Pacific Islander?
Yeah.
Because I read the Herald and you don't get that.
Nah.
You don't get that kind of stuff, and I was thinking, man, why don't. Why I just thought like there's a space out there to write how we talk, and I think with mainstream media, it's not like that. It has to be structured well, it has to be edited well, the language has to be straight.
Yeah.
You can't really go off on a tangent.
Yeah, because even if you do write as if the way you talk, it's going to get edited anyway by the main editor. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm sure they're just taking into account the audiences they're trying to reach out to. But yeah, I guess to your point, there are going to be a lot of Pacific people who read the Herald, for example, and probably don't see the stories that reach out to them as much because they're probably not speaking in the language that. But I feel like there's different ways to go about it. Like I think as you talk about, like with Scoop, is that his name?
Scoop Jackson.
Yeah, I think he's incorporating like hip hop and like music. Like that's something relatable to, I guess, for Pacific people, like regulating like music and sports and finding a way to combine those two. So I think there's ways around it, like you can incorporate themes without, like, I guess if the language is changed, if the theme is still there of comparing like a rugby player to like a hip hop album or something like that, like something that's like just different themes that would capture the audience's attention.
Because I guess with Slam magazine, it's a basketball magazine, but it's about the culture of basketball rather than it's more about the culture. So you had to like talk like it's the culture, and basketball in the States like it's synonymous with hip hop, in the NBA and African American players and all that. Like you got the movies there like Above the Rim and White Man Can't Jump. So it is hip hop, And so that's what the theme of Slam magazine was. So you had to write like that. So you couldn't hide He couldn't come and talk like a newspaper in Slam magazine. But I think Scoop Jackson was so skilled in his writing and the way he wrote. It was awesome, man. You should read it, his stuff. But I think when he left Slam to work for ESPN, he took his he's still writing the same.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
That's cool, man. And I get it, because in America, like when you watch the American talk shows, the sports ones, with even the TNT, Charles Barkley and Shaq,
yeah.
like they're African American, they're talking like they are talking.
Yeah.
They're not talking white.
Nah, not at all.
They're just themselves.
Or even like, was it Shannon Sharp and
Shannon Sharp, you know? Or Skip's talking white because he's white.
yeah.
But Shannon
Sharp is like
himself.
his counter. Yeah.
Himself, And when I see that, when I watch First Take, you see Stephen A. Smith, even Michael Irving when he was there. Like, man, have you seen that Michael Irving segment back in the day? The top three. I think he had the top three playmaker. Did you remember that?
Oh,
when him and Ryan Clark, they're doing this hip hop dancing. And they're talking about the top three.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's mainstream TV and they're acting black. There's nothing like white about any of it. Like Stephen A. Smith ones, that's, I think when I see that, when I saw Scoop Jackson, how he writes, and then I see ESPN and what Stephen A. Smith doing, all those African American guys are doing, like they're being themselves. It's their culture in mainstream. Like I'm thinking, man, how come we can't do that? We've got our stuff. We've got our PMN. We've got our media places, but it's only for our people, really. Like, where's our voice in the mainstream, real mainstream? You know what I mean? Like, why aren't we on Sky Sports? We have Mills. We have Mills on there, but he's talking like a white guy.
Yeah, I think that's just how he talks, though. Like, I can't fault anyone if that's how they talk. Like, I talk the way I am. That's just how I was. Brought up, sort of thing.
Yeah. But I'm just saying.
But I get what you mean.
I'm just saying what I see in America, like, and over here, and we talk about having diversity here. More brown faces on TV and all that. But is it actually what we want? Like,
I think the easiest example, like, is I can think of is to improvise on Crowd Goes Wild. Because he's just himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing is, like, Crowd Goes Wild is not like, it's not like a big...
it's a niche show.
It's a niche show.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, the challenge now is trying to have someone like him on like a more proper sports channel and a sports show.
Sky TV. Sky
TV,
Sports.
Yeah.
Sky Sports.
Without watering them down.
Yeah, so. Like ESPN, that's the biggest sports broadcaster in the world, First Take, biggest show in the world, and there you have it. You have African Americans there doing their thing.
Yeah, because they had that Pacific Brothers show as well, right? Like there was a lot of I don't know what you thought of that, but
I couldn't really watch it.
But yeah,
Oscar was there, it was cool, but it was like the banter wasn't there.
Yeah,
our banter, the Pacific Island banter wasn't there. And then I saw the one with he interviewed Doug Hallett came on. And Doug Hallett's real corporate, got his suit on, talking real proper, I was thinking, oh man, come on, get something out of this guy, like something that's real to me, or real to us,
Yeah, something relatable. So yeah, I think that's the challenge going forward. Like just having more, like it's not just brown faces, but I guess people, because I think that's one thing. Like if you have like two Samoans and one's like grown up in the area, like I guess for myself, I'll speak for myself. Like growing up, like I went to like a school like Sacred Heart College, and that's not the biggest Pacific school compared to someone that goes to a school in South Auckland, because that's
like
the way
that,
like, and that's the way that they're brought up, and that's the way they would talk because of their surroundings, that sort of thing. There's different. It's a tricky one to figure out because one day we'll get there.
Yeah,
I get there.
Yeah.
But I think for now, having any sort of brown representation is good.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. But also understanding that not every brown person's the same. Like there's different brown people, they come from different backgrounds, and I guess trying to find a way to incorporate every part of a Pacific Islander on screen. Yeah, that's something we'll work on moving forward. It's funny you brought up ESPN because that's my dream goal.
To work there?
To work at ESPN. Because I mentioned before how like, off camera I must have mentioned it, but how like NBA and NFL are like my two main sports. Like, I probably know more about those two than any other sport.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I know a lot about like rugby and like combat sports and stuff. But those two just happen to be the ones that I'm just really, really into. So ESPN is probably like the main goal for me moving to, I wanted to move to America when I was little. Probably not so much now, the way it's...
They've got Australia, ESPN, eh?
They do have
ESPN
Australia.
Yeah.
So that's an option possibly down the line if I wanted to...
That's the bridge. Across.
Yeah, that's the bridge. Yeah, there's a lot of things on like my to-do list in terms of like sports media that I want to do. One of them is Crowd Goes Wild. And like, I remember like my last day of PMN, because Tim Provise works there as well. And I mentioned to him like, it was the first time he had heard that I wanted to be a sports journalist in mainstream. He was like, oh, like, what do you thought about Crowd Goes Wild? I was like, oh, yeah, like, that's definitely something I'd consider in the future. So, like, Crowd Goes Wild is definitely a goal of mine moving forward. I think the cool thing about being at NZME is that they're pretty open to letting you collab with other media companies. Like, they're not strict or anything. Like, if it works within your schedule, then they'll let you do it. So, hopefully down the line I can do, like, Crowd Goes Wild, and ESPN is also another goal of mine. I also want to move to England for some reason, because there's a lot of like rugby players, like Pacific rugby players over there as well.
Yeah,
I feel like, I don't know,
especially in France.
Especially in France,
top
like,
14.
Yeah, like top 14, and I don't know if there's many people out there, many journos those ways who can tell those stories of people out there, because there's quite a lot of people out there. Like Charles Puretel moved over, made that jump and became the highest paid man in rugby. Like stories like that, and there's probably other stories that we're probably not telling over on that side of the hemisphere. It's just covering all bases all around the world, so that's kind of want to take my career to.
Yeah, when it comes to the Pacific Islanders playing rugby overseas and the whole world rugby thing, like I'm heavily influenced by Dan Leo's documentary, Oceans Apart. Like, man, that is really insightful. And when I watched the documentary, it's free to air on TV and NZ+. I didn't know that. I just found out because I thought you had to pay for it.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
it's free there. So I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and because I watched the shorts, like there was the Rupini one, and there was another one. I think it was a Trevor Leota's one. The shorts, but then there's the full 1 hour documentary, and I watched that. And man, that is a problem, man. Like, I don't know about now because it's got a new prime minister in Samoa, but you can I could sort of understand why it's happened like that, why there's corruption, and why the government has to intervene with the rugby unions in the islands. Like Fiji has it, Tonga, their governments are in there, but they got no choice, because where are they gonna get the extra money from? Like that's what I got from the documentary. And when Dan Leo interviewed the CEO of World Rugby at the time, I don't know if he's still... Nah, it's a different guy.
Bill Beaumont.
Nah, the one before him.
Oh, one before? Oh, no,
I think it was, yeah. But he was saying, he was putting the blame on the unions rather than World Rugby. Like, we got nothing to do with the unions, what they do, it's up to them. So it's probably so diverting the problem way, and like, I was like, okay, so don't really get much out of it. But what I did learn was, it's just everyone's complaining about the government's stepping into the rugby unions in the islands, but from the documentary, it seems like they got no choice. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Like, I know Pacific rugby is always going to be one of those things that kind of irks me, because even during my time at PMN, I remember I was at the game where Tonga played the All Blacks at Mount Smart, and they got wrecked like 100 and something nil, basically. And I wrote like an opinion piece. Did you? So like on PMN, it's not there anymore because I think they took all my stuff down once I left. But
how come?
I think it's like technological thing. I can't really explain it. It wasn't anything against me. It's just like I don't know. It wasn't there when I searched it up.
Oh.
But basically, I wrote this opinion piece about like the All Blacks like taking advantage of the fact that we just had like the MMT rugby league thing happening, and they're taking advantage of that to try and promote this game of against Tonga, and they were hoping to see the whole red wave thing at Mount Smart all over again. Which, I mean, rugby league and rugby union are two completely different sports, and Tonga are at different stages when it comes to those sports. And I wrote this opinion. I was just real pissed off, like the way that like the All Blacks can promote this big game, like even on the night there, like there was no red wave, it was like red patches. It was mainly just all black, which means that like even the Tongan fans like aren't buying the whole All Blacks thing, which is really cool to see. But then I guess, I mean, I was gonna say this came out of it, but it didn't. But Moana Pacifica, like that's a big one, like the challenges that they're having to go through. And like I wrote this piece earlier in the year. It was my first back page of the Herald, which is like essentially the equivalent of being on the front page of the Herald.
Because back page sports.
Yeah. So that was my very first back page, like 2 months in, which is like a piece I'm really proud of. It's just about how Levi Moore was like in the conversation to be in the All Blacks and stuff. But like, if he's in the conversation to be in the All Blacks, what's the point of Moana Pacifica existing? Like, obviously it's to serve those Samoan and Tongan teams. But if your best players still dream of playing for the All Blacks, and like it wasn't criticizing Levi, like Levi can do what he decides what he wants to do, and now he then made it clear he wanted to play for the ABs, and now he's jumped over to the Crusaders. And that's the other thing as well, like the two best players, like because Tavanawa has gone to the Highlanders as well. So it's like, what's the point? Like, how does Moana bounce back from something like that if your two best players are onto different Super Rugby teams wanting to play for the All Blacks, and we're kind of left with like not necessarily the scraps, but like everyone else playing for Samoa and Tonga. It's just, I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, you always got to get like best players in any team, you know, and just so happens that the best players went off to the New Zealand franchises. But I thought 20% of the team aligned to New Zealand, NZ.
Like, I think there's a bit of confusion about, because I think there is, but I think not everyone knew that. I think everyone just assumed that everyone that plays for them has to play for Samoa and Tonga, which isn't the case. It's not the case at all. But I think it was just like at least posing the question out there, like, what's the purpose of Moana if that's the like, it wasn't coming for anyone. It was just like at least putting that conversation there of because obviously at the end of the day we want like Samoa and Tonga to be up there with the likes of the ABs, and you brought up the whole thing about corruption from the Oceans Apart documentary and things like more like a lot of things have to come back into place in order to restore those glory days, I guess. Yeah.
It's sort of like, for me anyway, like I always say this on the podcast, that for me, like I always thought that the Moana Pacifica team, you know, because of that 20%, you're never going to get, like, it's easy to slip someone in the 20%. I mean, they might say 20%, that's all right. But 20% of a squad is bloody half of 15. You know, it's like, it's easy to slip the best players into that 20%. Oh, no, you might have a chance for the All Blacks. You know, and the rest get taken out. But there was that whole thing with the other rugby team, that Kalanoa.
Yeah.
Kalanoa rugby, they were supposed to be coming in.
And it was like backed by like Rokethoko and Ben Artinga and like Jerome Kaina and all those guys as well. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I sort of like think there's bits and pieces coming out of that, because my thinking of that team was that this is a team that's fully funded. It's got nothing to do with NZ. It's like a Fiji Drua team. Like Fiji Drua is their own entity. You know, and I thought that Kalanoa was the same thing, but for Pacific Islanders. So to me, I was thinking, oh, that's the best way forward for a Pacifica team that's in control of their own stuff. And the next minute they get overtaken by Moana that's in NZ sort of control of the 20%. So it's like, oh, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it helped. Yeah, it helped. They had Michael Jones and Ryan Williams backing Moana because they've already had those connections to.
Yeah, and that was another thing too,
NZR.
because they've always been asking for a team like this. They have all these years, and kept on saying no. NZR saying nah. Kananō comes, say, can you guys come and
No, yeah.
because we're on the threat now. We've got this team coming. You guys can make your team now. It's like, hey.
I don't get how. I don't
See,
get
I
how.
know, I'm just saying. That's how it feels to me. What happened?
No, yeah, I can see that as well because I feel a similar way as well about how, and like you can tell in the results as well, like the way that they've been, like they're not a bad team. It's just there's obviously other outlying factors that aren't being taken into account, and I don't know. All you can do is kind of hope that now that they've lost their two best guys, and I'm sure they're gonna make some moves in the off season. They've got a new coach in Tana that hopefully can turn some things around, but I don't know. Until then, I don't know what you can do.
Well, even if they do get good guys, good like top players, like I don't know, like
It'll take one big name like for the dominoes to fall. That's usually how it works with like the Pacific teams, right? Like, because if one like Toa Samoa is the easiest example because that just happened last year. But how like the Penrith boys, I feel like were the first ones to put their hand up, like Luai and To'o and Pricey, and then everyone else started following after that.
Yeah, well, they don't have the same eligibility rules.
There's a good point as well. So
it's easy for them to go play for Samoa and then come back play for Origin.
Yeah,
because that was the whole thing.
But I guess framing it's like a Moana Pacifica sense. Like if a name like if Artie's decided to put his hand up for Moana. Granted, it would probably be like in the back end of his career sort of thing. I mean, we're seeing in the international game as well, like Tonga have got like all these former All Blacks and then Israel Folau, but they're at the back end of their careers. It's just, all it takes is just one guy in his prime to kind of make that jump, and then everyone else will follow, I feel like.
Well, it's good they at least got that 3-year stand-down period now. So and you look at the Tongan team now, with those ex All Blacks and ex Wallabies on their team.
Yeah, even Samoa too. So
yeah,
I mean, it should be a good World Cup, eh? You'd hope it would be a close World Cup, but yeah, World Cup will be very hard to predict this year. I feel like.
Yeah, with how strong North is, especially Ireland and France. I'm not buying the All Blacks though. Are you? Are you buying the All Blacks? Because here's my take, right? They beat South Africa. Okay, I get it. But then that's South Africa's first game because that was pretty much a different team that they played against the week before.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because they had the B team over in South Africa.
Yeah.
They already flew their main guys down.
Their first game is the A team, I guess,
Yeah. So do you count that? And the Wallabies been not being really good.
Yeah, well, but you can never count Eddie Jones out. Like I would never having a coach like that. I would never count out because that guy's done some magical things World Cup time, like with Japan and with England. So I will never officially count them out. And the fact that they're not on the same side of the draw as the ABs and England and ABs in South Africa and France and Ireland, like they got just as good a chance to do something. So All Blacks. I don't know. We have to wait until that World Cup squad is announced. Like, I have a fair idea about who would make an impact on that team, like, and who would miss out.
Yeah,
I feel like.
I think the boys on Kanaraka, the rugby podcast, saying they predicted Callum Clark won't make it.
I don't think he will either. I feel like his addition. I was surprised when he got added to the rugby championship team, but I feel like it was more so just to see what he can do, if he can add anything. But essentially him and Leicester they're similar players.
Yeah.
It's just Leicester has the upper hand because he's a bit more versatile.
He can play centre.
Yeah, he can play the midfield.
Yeah. And I don't think they'll take two specialist wingers there. Especially if you've got a guy like Will Jordan who can play fullback as well.
Anywhere, yeah.
And Mark Tellier, he's a specialist winger. But then, you probably need some backups there. Because do you even think McKenzie will make it? Because if they'll play the Monga and Barrett.
Yeah, 10-15, yeah.
And if someone gets injured, they'll just swap. swap around there, and Will Jordan move to 15 or vice versa. Yeah.
I would have liked to see, because when I first thought of like a good 23 for that first rugby championship game against Argentina, I had Bowden Barrett like off my 23. Like I wouldn't have put him in my 23 just based off like Super Rugby form.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
the other two, like Moanga, Richie and McKenzie wouldn't have. But Barrett's like changed my mind now. Like he's convinced me that he can get the job done. But again, like you have a guy like McKenzie who's been like on fire all season, and then you probably can't even crack because you wouldn't even put him in that 23 jersey ideally,
he'd have to be like just a backup. Like if there's too many injuries, they'll call him up, like they called Stephen Donald.
Stephen Donald. Oh jeez, third string, fourth string. Yeah, it's not a bad third stringer to have though.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean the other situation that intrigues me is the halfback situation, like behind Aaron Smith, because like I'll definitely have Cam Roygaard. Like I really enjoy watching Cam Roygaard.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Roygaard. Yeah.
Did you watch him when he was playing for Counties?
Yeah, I watched him. That's when he first caught my eye, and then I saw that he was signed with the Hurricanes, so I watched a bit more, and then he had like a real standout season. But it's just like it's because of the way he run. Like he's just like he's got that running game, and obviously Aaron Smith's like a bit older, so he's got that experience. But Roygaard's just like he like the meters he covers in the game, and he knows when to time his runs as well. That's why I noticed watching him, because I think. The game coming up, they've got Finley Christie starting. And I'm not really convinced by Finley Christie. I'd rather have Brad Weber in there, to be honest.
Oh yeah,
I know. I like Brad Weber more than Christie. That's just my take. But I know
who's your team in Super Rugby?
Blues, like by default. Yeah. Has to be the Blues. But like I like Finley in the Blues.
Yeah,
I just like in the All Black setting. It's just he doesn't do it for me.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have.
Yeah, because he's the backup there.
At the moment, yeah. Because they named Smith, Christie and Roygaard for the Rugby Championship, and then Weber had to play that All Blacks 15.
So that's the picking order, eh? Because Fakatava's playing 15. All Blacks 15.
Yeah, so he was in All Blacks 15 as well, but I don't think Fakatava, it's too late for him now. But yeah, it's interesting that it'll be interesting to see how who the All Blacks pick. I feel like Foster's already made up his mind.
Right.
For most part, I think he just has one or two question marks that he kind of wants to.
I thought that when I never saw David McKenzie's name on the team, because I thought, David McKenzie's not there. Maybe Foster's made up his mind already about him.
Yeah, I think the team that they picked for the Bledisloe game coming up is just guys who are trying to. It's their last chance, really. For a lot of fringe guys, but also it's mixed in with guys who are playing their last New Zealand game. So I think it's just a chance to farewell them, that sort of thing. But I don't know where you put McKenzie in that 23. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, I'm interested in who's going to be the next 10 after the World Cup, because Barrett's gone and Morgan's gone.
Well, you'd think McKenzie, right? That's why he resigned. He resigned for another season or something.
But if you're not going to put him in the squad for World Cup, then what does that say? I don't see anyone below McKenzie. You got Fergus Burke.
It's a big drop.
Yeah.
Fergus Burke, there's Brett Cameron, who I'm not too big on. There's a few, I
saw Zan Solomon playing 10 for Auckland, so maybe they're trying to blood him too.
Maybe. I see him more as a fullback.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit surprising to see him in 10. Yeah. I forget NPC's starting this week.
Today.
Sorry. It's on, as we're speaking. Yeah.
Counties and Manukau.
It's on at the moment, yeah.
Who are they playing? Who's Counties playing?
Counties are playing... I saw it earlier in the week. It's a team beginning with T, I think.
Yeah. Because
one of the other games is Tasman Otago. I assume it's Taranaki, but it's...
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I could be easily wrong.
So, when you're covering sports, what kind of preparation do you do when you have to get something out for that preparation? Is it how often do you have to
even in terms of like research and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, because usually when I turn up to work, there's usually like we already have like a set list of jobs that we kind of have to do for the day, but I can kind of do those jobs. Plus, if there's any other stories that I want to bring to the table, then I can do that as well. So just keeping a balance.
So for example,
For example, I guess if there's like a boxing story, like there's a boxing story about the guy called Mataika. Mataika, he's like a heavyweight or something. He's just been added to the boxing card with Miyamoto and Lani Daniels, those girls. I think the story behind him is that apparently he wants to, or not wants to, but apparently he is gonna try and represent Tonga instead of New Zealand for the Olympics next year. But it's because, from what I understand, Tonga is gonna cover all his fees and stuff, whereas if he wants to represent New Zealand, he has to pay like a $12,000 fee or something like that just to represent them, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's like a story that just I could bring to the table, and usually my manager can be like, yeah, like that's a good idea, like go through with it. But also it's just prioritizing, like if some of my set jobs need to be done like then and there, then I kind of have to go through with that. It's just prioritizing different things, but yeah, it's just a lot of research involved. It's just like, yeah, research is really pretty handy because it's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool for the interviewee, like the athlete that you're talking to, because if they can tell that you've done your research, then they'll probably respect you a lot more, and they'll probably be a bit nicer to you when you try and interview them. Like they won't be so standoffish. So yeah, research is a big part for me, so I spend a bit of time, maybe like 10-15 minutes. That's usually what I need. Sometimes you don't really have time to research, like you probably only have like a minute, because you'll get a call and be like, oh hey, this person's free like right now, can you come talk to them? And like in your head you have to formulate like 3 or so like easy questions. So sometimes I'll just ask questions to kind of keep them going, to keep them talking, but at the same time I'm like trying to research in the background like any extra stuff I can ask.
I'll say you're just on the call with them.
Yeah, like while I'm on the call with them.
Right.
So it's like a lot of like it's a lot of pressure in that sort of situation, because you don't want to like
Miss anything.
Yeah, miss anything out, or like get the wrong info, that sort of thing. But yeah, it varies. Like if it's like a long-term story, then there's a lot of planning involved, a lot of ringing around the interviewees and sort of organizing times and stuff to meet up. Yeah, it's different for different stories. Like just a lot. That's pretty much how the prep is, really. Yeah.
So, like, do you have to like in regards to like rugby or basketball, any games you have to watch? Like, do you watch it as part of your research as well, when there's a story about it?
Like if there's a story leading up to the game, like probably like highlights and stuff, I'll quickly watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I don't have enough research time, then probably not. But like, yeah, ideally you would watch a bit of tape just to get an idea of what questions to ask and to like formulate your own opinions. Yeah, there's a lot of it's pretty hard to explain, because I'm not like when I do my job, it's hard to explain to people what I do. Like I just do it, and I just let people just watch me.
Yeah.
But I think that's just how I am, because I'm like, if someone's like explaining something to me, it's very hard. Like my attention span's not long at all. Like, so if they explain something, I need to like watch them do it, or I need to do it myself in order to do something. So yeah, I'm just saying, if you did not understand what I just said before, that's because I'm having trouble trying to explain what I do.
No, I'm interested, because I reckon you're doing my dream job, man. Because if any job all you do is watch sports and report on it or write about it, oh man, I'd rather do that than what I'm doing or anything else.
That's how I like to think of it sometimes. It's like you're getting paid to watch sport.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much what it is, though.
Like people watch sport all the time, man. But to actually get paid for doing it, I was like, what? What kind of job is this? Like, do you understand? Like, dude, Pacific Islanders like sports, man. Like, we like the arts, we like sports, we like talking about these stuff, we talk to our friends, we go watch the games, we support our teams hard out, Imagine getting paid for doing that. Like, no one thinks of that.
Yeah.
I think.
There's there is an avenue there there's a space there for more Pacific male sports journals, because I talked about how there's more Pacific journals in general, but there's not many Pacific sports journals out there. Like there's me. There was Matt Manukia, who was on TV1. Now he's doing comms for the All Blacks, which is a pretty cool gig in itself. And I know there's a couple who are kind of coming through the ranks as well. So, but other than that, there's not many like Pacific sports journals. I think that's kind of the type of voices we need in sports journalism.
And especially if we look at these sports like rugby, especially rugby league, heaps of Pacific Islanders played in these sports. So, with Pacific Islander journalists coming up to them, it's one of the boys, easy to talk to, it was relatable straight away.
That's one of the other reasons, Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls documentary. Yeah. It's funny because whenever I hear someone talk about Last Dance, they always take different parts of that documentary that they like. So this is going to be completely different as well. Like there was that journo Ahmad Rashad.
Yeah.
And he was basically when Jordan wanted to make a big announcement exclusive, he went to Ahmad, he asked Ahmad if he could do the interview for him. That's the kind of guy I want to be for athletes, especially Pacific athletes. Yeah. Your go-to guy, the guy you can trust.
Yeah, definitely.
So I remember I watched that, I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. You got Michael, you got the GOAT of basketball who wants you to do an exclusive with him. That's the job I want to do for big time athletes as well.
It's a process, it's building relationships.
Exactly, yeah.
And being trustworthy and stuff like that, I see stories in the States about that, especially Stephen A. Smith, when he talks about the years of building relationships, because I think he was on the podcast when he talked about his relationship with Allen Iverson, and I think the relationship got a bit screwed halfway because he was the first one to talk to him, interview him, and as an interview went to the world when he was younger, when AI was younger, and I think something happened and it was miscommunication, and AI thought that he got betrayed because Stephen A. Smith said or wrote something personal in an article somewhere, but it was taken out of context, so they never had that. He didn't trust them anymore. But then now they're all good because they sorted it out. But it was just a lesson in how the athletes perceive the media. If they're gonna spill your guts to you, sometimes they might give you too much information and don't use it. If you hear something that's pretty controversial or juicy.
Yeah.
Sometimes the athlete won't know that they've told you, and then next minute they go, and then that story comes out. Goes, hey, I told you about, and then you're gonna, that kind of stuff.
Being painted the wrong picture, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with Pacific athletes. They're probably at I don't know. I feel like they're at media sessions and they see all these Palangi journalists and they're like, oh, I gotta do the whole media train talk sort of thing. But then I feel as soon as a Pacific journal asked him just a random question, that's why crowd goes wild. They're just random. Obviously there's not many Pacific people there, but not barely any. But they're just random. They just ask different stuff. It's just lighthearted. It's little things like that will help build a relationship with athletes, and they're like, oh, you're the joker guy. I mess with you, this sort of thing. And
I can imagine there's a media scrum and all these serious questions. Next time someone says, do you like Coke or Pepsi? That kind of thing.
Just random. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Did you watch Inky Pinky Pocky or something like that? Some random pop culture question. Just clearly haven't been trained for, just catches them off guard sort of thing. So journalism is just all about building relationships, which is it's tricky for me sometimes because I'm a very reserved person, so, and socially awkward, so it's just it's just I don't know, finding a common ground a little bit. I feel that's what made my piece with Joseph, for example, really good, because I was able to build that trust. And even talking to a couple of the members of his team is oh, it's cool to see a brown journalist covering our stuff, even though they're respectful of anyone that covers them. But it's like, it's cool to see. Like it's something different, to have. But yeah, it's all about building relationships and not being too starstruck as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you get starstruck, does it sort of like put you off?
Nah, because like the only time I've been the reason I don't get too starstruck, I'm usually real calm around people, just because I see them as like just human beings. Like I feel like at the end of the day, they just want to be treated as human beings, unless you're like a real out there person who wants to be seen as like big time and famous. Then I mean, I guess, but I think the only time I've ever been kind of starstruck was Tyson Fury, because I was there a week of the Joseph Parker fight, and Tyson Fury was there like visiting, so he did all those like press conferences, pre-fight press conferences and stuff, like helping promote the fight a little bit. And I interviewed in the lead up to the fight like Joe and Tyson at the same time. It's funny because I'll hold my mic, and I've spoken to Joe heaps of times, so like it's normal just like going up to them and just holding the mic, and then I'll move to Tyson and my hand's just like shaking. And I ask my first question, and I'm gripping the mic so hard, and then Tyson answers, and then like finally like I keep it still. But that's like the only time I've kind of been starstruck. It's Tyson Fury, like he's world famous, like everyone knows who he is in sports. And
did he notice your hand? Did he say anything?
Nah, he's just looking away, sort of thing. He's just like he's probably been through like a million questions. He's probably just over media stuff. So, but yeah, I was just like, oh gosh, Tyson Fury, crap. So yeah. I didn't get too many like starstruck moments.
Yeah.
I guess if we're talking about like athlete, like a LeBron, for example, I'd definitely be starstruck. Because it's LeBron, like a Michael Jordan, like those big time sort of names. But I guess New Zealand wise, there's probably not many people. Maybe like Adesanya, maybe. But there's probably not many people I'd probably be like shaking my hand for.
You know, you talked about making it to ESPN as one of your dreams. Like what do you envision yourself doing there for ESPN?
It's a good question, because there's not many Pacific people in ESPN.
It might not have to be Pacific.
Yeah.
But
I guess like
there's a lot of Pacific Islanders playing in the NFL.
Well, yeah, I think that's one sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of Polynesians over in America, and I guess telling those sort of stories would be a good start. But I mean, like as I said before, like NBA, NFL, like that's just always been like a dream of mine to cover those sort of teams and be in those sort of environments. And I'm a big fan of like the college football as well, and like college basketball, like the NCAA sort of stuff. So I feel like the atmosphere of those sort of games is like, I imagine will be 100 times more better than like a rugby game here. And that's kind of like that's sort of the atmosphere and environment you want to be a part of. And also like it's ESPN, like it's like they're like the pinnacle of American sports, I guess. So I guess I think I felt the passion. I think it's just trying to find a way to build my way there, even if it's just the Australian branch as well, ESPN Australia, NZ, and that would be a good foot in the door. But yeah, I think I've always just admired those sports, and
I love American sports. I love the American sports culture, because the reason why I love NFL is because I've only been a fan of NFL the last 4 years, 5 years, 4 or 5 years. And it's only because I've been an NBA fan for ages. I've never followed the NFL, but I went on holiday with my family to Hawaii, and was it that time? Oh, no, it was another time where I went by myself, and I was at a bar, sitting at a bar, and it was empty. It was during the day. It was empty, and next minute, all these crowds of people came in with Denver Broncos tops. And the game started coming. And next minute I'm surrounded by all these Broncos fans. Ordering drinks, loud. And it's not even one group, it's heaps of groups. And the bar was empty just a minute ago. And the game's on, and man, I was just, what the hell's going on? Like, but the atmosphere on the bar was so mean. Like, I couldn't help but get into the game too. Like, I've never watched NFL whole game before, you know. But just the energy and it was so cool. And then when the finish, everyone left.
Yeah.
I was like, what just happened? So the hurricane just came in.
Yeah.
But then I was like, man, what the hell is this? I don't want to watch this. And then I've just watched the NFL since then.
Yeah, you don't get too many. You don't get that in like New Zealand.
No.
Like, there's not many because the Americans they take those game days like real serious. Like
I don't. Yeah.
Like I imagine, I'm not sure what time they start over. Like what time the game's usually on. Like I think one like on a Sunday. It's on a Sunday as well.
Yeah.
Which like you're definitely not gonna get that here on a Sunday with like.
Nah, because it's Monday over here when they have their games. So it's like early morning on Monday.
Yeah.
But So that was my first introduction to NFL. And I mean, actually, and man, I just couldn't understand how that energy came to be. That, because I've never experienced that in New Zealand. Of that kind of, I don't know, that culture, that kind of sports. That's hard out, And I wanted that. I wanted that again.
Yeah, I can't explain it. Like, I feel like they just don't care over there. Whereas in New Zealand, if we try and do that, it'll be very easy, like very tall poppy, like, nah, sit down, like you can't do that sort of thing. Like,
no, but we like that to the All Blacks, when All Blacks play.
Yeah, it's true.
And we like that in State Origin. Like, how crazy State Origin is when our people are like, either Maroons or Blues,
That always like cracks me up, like that we always go this hard for two teams that we're not
exactly
affiliated with. Yeah.
See, but that same energy, State Origin energy, that's the type of energy I'm talking about when I was watching.
Yeah.
But I want that energy for NPC, for everything, and I was thinking, like, part of when we started doing the podcast, doing the sports stuff, and to talk how we talk, was to try and build that kind of thing up again. Like, I think media is a big part of it too, especially in America, because I think the reason why, if you watch the American talk shows, sports ones, they're really hard out there.
Yep.
Like, they're really critical of the players. I mean, they go to extremes.
Yep.
Like, sometimes, I can't believe they said that about that player. Over here it'll be like, oh, it's mental health, you can't really say that.
Yeah.
But over there, it's a thing. No. And I think because the players make so much money, you're allowed to talk about them like that, like how they talk.
Yeah.
But it also builds, I think you see in the NRL too. Like, how hard out the NRL fans in Australia? Like, they're hard out there. And I think it's because of the media as well. I think it's built up so much, I don't know, it's trouble, right? And I think the media helps that along. You talk about all the dramas. I think because NRL is structured differently to how rugby is done here, like NZ. Like, there's heaps, like, in the NRL 360 show.
Yep.
And they're talking about all the dramas and off field. You don't really get that off field dramas here in New Zealand because it's behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
NZR is always tight with the All Blacks. Yep. It's about the aura of the All Blacks rather than what's happening behind the scenes. Only sometimes they can get have those little documentaries on players on Sky Sports, but that's it. You don't really get to see. It's not really transparent as much as NRL is, or you know what I mean. Like in the American sports, like it's all about the drama.
Yeah, I don't know how we. It's really interesting to talk about NPC because obviously we're so All Blacks focused when it comes to rugby. I feel like, and then there's Super Rugby, and then NPC's kind of just left in the dust. Because I remember back in the day, like, well, I say back in the day, I'm 25, but I say back in the day, like, growing up, like, NPC was like, it was easy for me to root for like Auckland and all these, like, I used to like watch all those NPC games growing up because there was a reason I was invested in it. And then nowadays, there's just something missing. Like there's like a gap that's not being bridged between NPC and Super Rugby and the All Blacks. I'm not really sure what that is. It's just
it might be the lack of coverage in the grassroots game. I think because it always starts at club rugby level, and I think the history of ESPN, like they're the first ones to televise the college games. You know, I think the college, the NCAA in America hasn't always been that popular, like, and televising that. When ESPN came out in the 70s, they started doing that. It was like unheard of. I mean, I think they were the first ones to film NFL draft. And it was like, hey, you actually filming a draft? What? This is done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like the draft, it's not televised, nothing. They were the first ones to do that. So it's sort of built interest because it's televised, And I think when they took away the Sky Sports stopped televising the 1A comp high schools, I don't think that was the right idea. Like to grow the game, it needs to be put on a pedestal so you can be proud of your team. So the people can be proud of the team, and it's up to the media to make sure that happens too, with the stories the media has and the shows they have.
Because media aren't stupid. Like, they're not going to criticize high school kids for what they do on the field. Like, they want to push out the results that have been like the 1A comp and stuff. Like, we still, like, at the Herald, we still have a guy who goes to the games, or he'll put out like a premium post almost each week about the first 15 results from the country. That's mainly because he has contacts around who can kind of tell him what's going on. So other than him, there's not much coverage of the 1A comp. Like, because part of the reason they like shut it down was just to not put too much on the high school kids, right? Like, not to put too much, like, put them under too much pressure. And then they have all these high expectations of the kids that when they jump to like club level, and for some reason they don't crack those NPC teams, and it's kind of like, oh, what happened to this guy? Like, he was the man in first 15, and now he's can't even crack Auckland team, or we can't even crack Canterbury or whatnot. So,
well, that's sort of their own fault, because I don't know if it's because it might be because they've taken away age group rugby in the club level. Like, you can't play rugby. You can play rugby in school, and so you get that expectation when you're at the first 15. And you finish school and you're like, oh yeah, where's my contract? But then if you don't get one, you have to go back to club. And it's like, what's your pathway now? Yeah.
Or you jump to like a different code or something. You could jump into league or something.
Yeah. So you're not giving opportunities to kids to play rugby if you're taking away the age group in the clubs, and then the club suffers because, club scene in Auckland is suffering. A lot of clubs are joining together because they can't pay the bills in there, and I think, it's an interesting one there.
I remember
I think it's important to cover club rugby in the grassroots.
I think so too. Yeah. It's just
just to get the crowd involved. Get the locals involved. Like they had they had the Manukau Rovers win back to back now. Yeah. But none of the players in the Auckland team. I was like, hey. Or are they gonna go to Moana instead? Maybe, I don't know. But
that puzzles me as well. Why there's no Manukau players, and you would think back-to-back champs and essentially the best player in club, not even cracking. Because a few of them ended up in the development side, I think, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's. I feel like it's the Auckland rugby thing. Like, each union has their own sort of issues. Like, I feel like Counties is a club that's a union that's kind of getting it because they got a lot of local players. But then I remember when like Hoskins and Dalton like jumped ship to Counties. I imagine they have like connections there with Counties, but also I'm like, oh, how could Auckland let two of those talented players jump to Counties like that? Like, I don't know if it was something. I don't know if it's something wrong with Auckland. I feel like there is, but it's not really talked about. Like,
well, Alama left there. Alama's not the coach now, it's Craig McGrath, I think.
I think so. Not too sure about the coach, But
what was I saying? I was rambling. But just my experience in the American sports culture I think is similar to what Australia is trying to do, because Australia is a sporting mad country too.
Yeah, it is.
AFL, rugby league, rugby union, and it's just a better atmosphere, sporting wise. Over here, well, we have to just wait for the All Blacks to play, really.
Yeah, yes.
And that's everybody, and then what? That's it. Like, just. But then I think I'm always thinking about how to bring up the sports culture in New Zealand. Like everyone says we got a sports culture here, but we don't really.
Not really, no.
There's
Not
nothing. There's nothing for the fans. You know.
No.
There's nothing for the fans, and I think the NRL's got it right because I think they talk to the fans. They ask what the fans want, and then they just had the try July.
July, yeah, with the celebrations and stuff.
Those try celebrations and stuff. That's cool. You know, they make they make it a big event. These games, you know, and all the people are just invested in it somehow. And I think the media's got a large part of that because you have shows like NRL 360 talking shit.
Yeah.
On live TV, people get angry. What? You can't say that. Like Paul Kent, he says stuff and Buzz, they're arguing, and everyone else gets into it. The fans get into it. Over here, you got the breakdown when you got JK and Goldie Netta, but I was like, Mills is in the middle. Okay.
It seems a bit like there's discussion going on there, but it seems a bit like controlled or like watered down. Like it's not what you want to. It's not really what you want to hear. Right?
Because you know why? I think because if you look at that panel, they're ex-players. Where's the journalist? Where's your Buzz? Where's your Paul Kent? For that perspective.
I think that's what Stanaway is meant to be, Kirsty Stanaway. But she's obviously like the main host and
the media. She's like the media.
She's the media, but she's
like
also
the Molly and First Take.
Yeah. She's trying to be like the middle person, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we need like because 360 have like Paul Kent and then Buzz and I think we need more journalists like that who are sort of outspoken and to jump on the breakdown. So,
but that's Fox Sports, right? So they're connected to Fox Sports in the USA. So they know what they got. Consultants probably say, "Oh, now this is what you got to do to build up this tension and as entertainment." ESPN sports entertainment. We got to entertain the people, you know, and that's what we lack here. Sky Sports, man, come on, man. That's why it was pretty cool when Spark Sports came because now they got a competitor. Now they can rival Sky. And Sky got nervous because shit.
Yeah, because Spark was having all these other. They took the rights, like different sports from them. Yeah,
but they fucked up because their internet wasn't really good in the World Cup, and they never recovered from that really. Because they thought, nah, so they slowly went out. But then at least Sky upped their game a bit. You know, they got out of the decoder thing and had the online streaming Sky Now. You know, which. You know, I loved because, you know, everything was going to streaming. No one wants to get the old technology of the decoder and you can just go on VIP box and get it for free on your internet, you know, and Sky didn't want to go there because they were making money from the consumer was held hostage with what Sky was going to do, you know. But I really thought that Sky Sports, Spark Sports, when they came out, that was the opportunity to kick Sky's ass. Just get a different way of presenting. Have some shows, talk shows. Because we want talk shows. Yeah. We want some good talk shows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know? And I think Spark had the opportunity to do that, but they didn't. They missed out. You know? They had the World Cup. Mm-hmm. The Rugby League World Cup. But they didn't have that like talk show sort of thing. They didn't have personalities. I think you need personalities, eh? Yeah. And if you look at ESPN, look what Stephen A. Smith's doing. How personality he is. He's sort of up the game. Now you've got these kind of people that taking like to TNT with Charles Barkley and Shaq, how they talk and they joke and they banter. It's entertaining. Their personalities, you know. I think that's what we're missing.
Yeah, it's also like, again, like that's why I like being at Newstalk because they create these discussion points that make people want to call in and say whatever they want, right?
Yes.
It's just that formula to like a sports lens, and it's like, I don't know if it's because sport here in New Zealand is sort of like a gateway for people. It's like it's an escape for them to get away from that sort of controversial sort of discussion. Like sports, so like it's an outlet for people to kind of be free, but at the same time, there's stuff in sport that needs to be confronted and talked about. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if we have I feel like we do have there's talent around somewhere. I feel like that can be that type of Stephen A. or that type of Skip Bayless type of character.
I think there are, but I think the rules are just stopping them from coming up. Because, like you just made me think, if Mike Hoskins and Heather Duplessis and were sports people and they had sports shows, if they were on Breakdown doing what they do on their talk shows on Breakdown, that's what I mean. They'll be entertaining.
It's the same formula, yeah.
They'll be entertaining to me because they're like hard out, like digging in, like their personalities are the type of personalities where people get mad, or you either hate it, you either love it or hate it, and that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you get that engagement, So it's not about just making people love you, everyone love you. No. You gotta have a Paul Kent on your show. You gotta have someone to mess things up a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Cause a bit of chaos.
Yeah, cause a bit of chaos. Because it's entertainment at the end of the day. People gonna watch something that will make them mad rather than something that's boring.
Yeah,
like, you agree with, So
even like those
But I think that dynamic, what we're describing, is what makes. I think that's what makes the sports culture grow. I think why the energy that I witnessed in America and in Hawaii, like the American sports culture, I think it starts from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think sports media still has a ways to go. Like on one side, like the talk shows, we need more of those. Even like the lighthearted stuff, I feel like we're missing. Like we used to have the sports cafe and stuff,
Yeah.
And like Game of Two Halves. Like I love Game of Two Halves when I was growing up. Like those shows are not there. Like it's just Crowd, which is great. Like I'm glad Crowd is still around. But even those type of shows because I feel like fans will get invested in that as well. Like fans get invested in things for different reasons. Like whether it's the confrontational stuff or whether it's the fun stuff that brings personality out of the players. Because I think that's what they want at the end of the day. Like they want personality out of the players rather than just being like media trained, like robots. And like I know for a fact that a lot of those players aren't like that. Like they've got personality. It's just finding the right way to bring that out of them.
You see that in the NRL, some of the players.
Yeah.
When they're joking around with when they're joking.
Yeah.
You don't see that in rugby union. I think the media training comes into play in rugby union more. You see it, you hear it more. It's all the cliche stuff. Whereas in the NRL, when you see the interviews after the post interviews, you can see the playfulness and it's a bit like it's a bit loose.
That's why I like was it like Matty John's his show? I find that funny because of like even sometimes like when players are on and like you can tell part of them is still media trained, but it's time for this. It's like it lets them loosen up a little bit, and we need something like an equivalent to that. On like the breakdown's not going to be that. Like a different alternative that lets players be them. I think it's just it will just get fans more invested, even if it's not All Blacks. Like if it's Super Rugby players or, and then you have like a segment that's like that focuses on club rugby and grassroots.
Yeah.
Like even that sort of segment, that's a start. That's a storytelling point you can go down. So I mean, I don't have all the solutions, but it's like you got to start somewhere. I feel like.
Yeah, I think we should be looking at America, like Australia looks at America. Because when they had the grand final, I don't know, they're trying to be like the Super Bowl in around grand final. Every year it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and there's always some random like musical act that.
But that's cool. You love to see that. It's an event for the fans. To come.
But there's also some things in America that I don't think we could replicate in New Zealand, like a draft. I don't think we could replicate like the hype and even the concept of a draft in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Like, because they're having discussions about like a Super Rugby draft, possibly. Like, I just don't think that it could never measure up to like an NFL draft or an NBA draft. Because the way they do those events is like amazing. Like it's a draft. Like they're not even playing. Like, but they managed to build so much hype for those prospects coming up.
I saw the NRL ones. Like they got a stadium there. All the fans are there. Like everyone's there.
Yeah.
People probably fly across the country to go there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just to be on TV.
Like, yeah, that's like what I want to do. That's kind of why I want to do the ESPN stuff, like to take in that atmosphere. Probably because it's absent in New Zealand right now. So I think traveling around and attending like drafts and attending like big, like those college football games where like everyone's all decked out in their colors and it's just like one big red wave or orange wave or whatever color they're representing. Like, yeah, we're missing that here, which is sad.
Yeah, I'm always thinking how we can change, we can help it along. I was gonna say, how'd you drink?
Man, you smashed through yours. This is really good. I'm just taking my time, little sips here and there.
Who's your NBA team?
Clippers.
Oh yeah, always.
LA Clippers. Yeah, it's always been. So I started watching sports in like 2012. This is probably like year 10 then. But that's because that was the first year that my family got Sky.
Oh yeah.
Up until that point, I never had Sky.
Yeah.
And then we got Sky with like the sports channels and stuff. And then I just watched ESPN like all the time. And then the Clippers just caught my eye because they were Lob City at the time. So they were.
With Blake Griffin.
Yeah, Griffin and CP3. And CP3 is my favorite player of all time.
Oh yeah.
And then DeAndre Jordan and Jamal Crawford, all those guys. Like I love that team.
Well, what do you think CP3 will go with the Warriors?
I think he'll be fine. Yeah, he's pretty much playing like pretty much filling that void that Jordan Poole was at.
Yeah,
I feel like just without the scoring, I think they just need that experience head on the bench. I don't know if he'll start. If I'm being honest.
Do you think Jordan Poole left because it was either him or Draymond?
I think so, or possibly. I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know how they managed to survive last season together.
Yeah, because they sort of kept it quiet, eh?
Because that punch up happened before the start of
last
season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, good for Jordan Poole that he's moved on. The Warriors, yeah. How are you? What team do you support?
I move around a bit because I follow players rather than.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually wrote about it in one of my articles, but my first team ever I supported was Phoenix Suns when Charles Barkley was playing. And it was I knew Charles Barkley before I knew MJ. And then I hated MJ because they beat Phoenix that year. And man, I hated him. And then I think Charles Barkley moved to Houston Rockets. Then I was like, nah. But then I started watching the Indiana Pacers New York games. And man, I fell in love with Reggie Miller. So he became my best player. So then I started following Indiana Pacers. Yeah. Until Reggie Miller retired. And then after he retired, Indiana was shit, so I didn't want to support them. So I moved on to Miami Heat because of Dwayne Wade. Yeah, and Shaq. So I've been in Miami Heat ever since until Damian Lillard came. Played for when Damian Lillard came. Then I moved to Damian Lillard and Portland Trailblazers.
Yep.
And then when they got rid of McCollum, I went back to Miami. So I'm Miami.
So you've been around. Okay, so you've been around in your support. Okay, that's all good.
I like Miami because Dwayne Wade was there, and I like Pat Riley. I'm a Pat Riley fan.
Okay, yeah.
I reckon he's awesome.
Yeah, because I'm pretty much like, if I find a team, I stick to it. So I'm still a Clippers fan,
right?
First and foremost, but because I support CP3, usually whatever team he's on is like my second sort of team. I'm still waiting for him to win that first ring though. I was gutted when the Suns lost to the Bucks that year, whatever year it was, 21, I think. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to all the NBA, all the sports seasons coming up, like. Because there's always a period when it's like NBA, NFL, and then, I mean, I think the World Cup would be happening they're all happening at the same time.
Right.
And that's when, like, as a sports fan, you gotta enjoy that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, you're right. It's a busy time. NFL starts in August, I think. Yeah.
Have you been tuning into the Women's World Cup, the football one, the one that's going on at the moment?
Nah, I haven't been. No, haven't been. Have you?
Yeah, I have. It's interesting because like football's not like a big sport for me, but I've grown into it as it's gone on.
I like watching the men's World Cup. I always support Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil's not a bad shout. Yeah, the women's one's interesting because like I probably wasn't big into women's sport until like the Black Ferns won last year.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the same for a lot of people here in NZ, and then they realize that we're hosting the women's actual football World Cup, and then they're getting all these crowds behind, trying to get the crowds behind for support, which is pretty neat to see. So I'm pretty fortunate to like I've been to a game during the World Cup. I was like, that's me done for the tournament, to be honest. So,
how's the atmosphere?
Really good, surprisingly. It was like because the game was Norway Philippines, and there's a lot of Filipinos out in Auckland, right? Like a lot of expats and stuff. So it's I felt like the whole Auckland Filipino community was at Eden Park that night, and then but unfortunately Norway smashed them. So, but yeah, and then there's the netball World Cup going on, and there's the basketball World Cup, and there's a cricket one later on in the year. Like there's all these World Cups happening at this all this year, which don't really think about it until it comes up. But yeah,
see, we are capable of getting the crowds to games. Yeah.
Well, I think partly because for those football games, a lot of them would have been from overseas. Because I know there's a cap on how many New Zealand residents can get tickets, and then they save the rest for like incoming fans from overseas so they can support their teams. So I think a lot of that. But to be honest, for the most part, I've been pretty surprised with how decent the support's been. Definitely a lot more than I'd expected. And I think because I remember the government, not the government, but Grant Robertson, the Minister of Sport, was trying to push for more, trying to encourage more fans to go. And then I think there was a lady, one of the FIFA officials was like, like New Zealanders tend to buy their tickets last minute sort of thing. So maybe that's a cultural thing. But I think we've been pretty good in support with Football World Cup. And the games have been pretty good. Well, the ones that aren't like 5-0, 6-0 thrashings have been pretty good. I'm pretty encouraged, at least for women's sport in the country. So
man, I'm just thinking something wrong if Grant Robertson has to tell everyone to go watch the game.
It's so ironic because I remember the first couple of games, I think it was like Wellington, where people were having transport issues to get to the game. And I was like, it's so ironic that the Minister of Sport is telling people to go to the games, yet they're having trouble getting there because of the transport. So little things like that. But and then netball. I'm not sure if you keep up with netball at all. Like still how the Silver Ferns are going.
Probably the domestic comp.
Yeah, that's how I got into because netball was another sport that I wasn't really big into when I started the job. And netball, I've grown into liking netball as well. So that's pretty cool. So I've been keeping an eye on the Silver Ferns. I don't know if they'll probably miss out. Basketball one I'm looking forward to. Even though I feel like out of the 5 World Cups, it's probably the one that gets the least coverage at the moment. Yeah, I feel like it should get more because it's the Basketball World Cup. But then again, you get America, who don't have the stars. Yeah, but they've got a decent roster. And then apparently Giannis isn't even playing for Greece because he's injured.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because New Zealand are in the same pool as America and Greece and I think it's Jordan, another one of those random teams.
I'll tell you what sport I've been watching, I haven't watched my whole life, is Formula 1. Because one of my mates, he told me to watch on Netflix.
Drive to Survive.
Yeah. Because you watch it, man. You'll get into it. I was like, hey, I never watched Formula 1. Blah, blah, blah. He goes, nah, trust me, watch it. And you'll get into it. I'm up to season 5. I was like, hey. He was telling me, it's so good. So, okay, I'll give it a try. So I watched the first episode, bro. It's me.
Yeah, has you hooked, eh? That's how I got into it.
Damn.
Yeah. That's how I got into Formula 1. I would just watch that documentary and, jeez. But it's rough now because it's a little bit boring because old mate Verstappen keeps winning. I think he's won like 8 in a row or 7, like however many he's won in a row. So he's kind of dominating. It's getting a little bit boring.
Yeah.
But
I like how they did the day, like they made it dramatic, so you're like interested, like the money they spend on these cars and the different crews and the dramas they go behind the scenes, and you just can't help but, man, this is so cool.
And then it's cool because that set the platform for like other sports documentaries as well.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you've seen. I recently watched this one about the Tour de France, the cycling documentary.
Oh.
It's about like the Tour de France, like the race is like the big race they have every year. And like I'm not even like into cycling. Like I can't even ride a bike. Like I don't know how. And then I watched the series and I was like, oh, this is like really cool. Like because it has the same intensity as like Formula One. Like how close everything is, and there's always that risk for something bad to happen, like a bad crash or something, just like in Formula One. So I mean, it definitely captures your attention. Like it got me into cycling, which is the most random thing to get into. I mean, what else? There's also like a tennis documentary as well. And
yeah, I like tennis. I played a bit of tennis. I enjoy it. I'm not good, but enjoy playing it.
That's the thing about being like a sports journalist. Like you can't. What I've learned is that you have to like really know a lot of your sports. Like you have to be well versed across everything. Like you can't just be like a one-trick pony and just know like rugby, for example. And like everyone has their specialty sports, but they know just as much in other sports as well. That it's easy for them to like be versatile and have that range to, like if one man goes down, then someone else can easily step up. So I've had to like learn sports this year that I probably wasn't too keen on, like golf and cricket. Cricket's that one sport I don't get.
You don't?
I find it boring, which is sad. But
cricket's cool. I like cricket. I probably haven't followed it for a while. I followed that when I was a kid, and then I didn't follow it for ages after that. And then, it's just one of those games that I know, but I don't know.
Like like the base level knowledge at least, which is like the rules and stuff, and
the culture too. Like, is the Ashes still going or is it finished?
Just finished up, yeah.
Yeah. So apparently the Ashes is like the state of origin of cricket.
Yeah, it is just as big. Like actually, maybe even bigger.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's more recognized worldwide.
Yeah.
And state of origin.
And then if I think of it, I never heard of that term before being compared. But when you imagine state of origin is big for league, and if that's the Ashes, if that's the equivalent, then put it into context. Like,
because I think Ashes has that history behind it as well. Like it's been going on for like I don't know if it's like a century or close to it or something. And Origin's only been Origin's been around for. Like it wasn't officially Origin until like the 80s, right? And then, but I think they were still doing Queensland v New South before then. But it's just like it's not as extensive as the Ashes. But apparently this year's like Ashes, I wasn't following it that closely. But apparently this year's one was really good, like a lot of drama and stuff and that sort of thing. But I don't really pay too much attention to that.
You know how we were talking about sports culture in New Zealand earlier? Like, how do you think the New Zealand media can play a part into building that up? Like when you see the sports culture in America with their media, and then Australia with their media, and then our media, like how do you think our media can help it come up a bit more? Like, because it's all about getting the fans invested in the team. Yeah. Right. So I think for me, I think it has to start from the ground up rather than the top down. Because I think it's from the top down. It's All Blacks or nothing. It's Super Rugby or nothing. And the bottom gets neglected. I actually read a book about ESPN, the origin of it. And like I said, they were the first ones to televise the college game because no one was doing it. And then next minute, the fans were the college kids. So they were the only show in town showing these games. So that's where it starts from there. But
I get what you mean, because like the best stories are those ones where like you follow them from like a young age,
Yeah.
or like college football or college basketball or whatever.
But
And
but
then
they're really good at it because they have
Yeah.
the mascots.
And then you follow them through their journey through the ranks.
Yeah.
And like that's a whole long term story in itself
Yeah.
that can be told. And I feel like, I mean, that's gone missing with the first 15 not being around.
Yeah.
So obviously we can't start following them from there. The only time you can really start following them is a club. So I guess as an alternative, more coverage of club rugby, of grassroots sort of thing would be a good start.
Or even with what people do, or what journalists do now, do they have a bigger picture in mind? Like, do you have a bigger picture in mind of what you want your? Because obviously you got things to say. That's your job to have things to say. The end goal of that. What's the you know what I mean? Like, do you have a big picture on what your end goal wants to be?
Honestly, not really. Yeah. Like for me personally, I don't have.
Yeah. Because I think you're in a position where it's more powerful than that.
Yeah.
Like, I think journalists, especially sports journalists, have this responsibility to grow the games they're reporting on.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know it, what you're doing. Like, I think the writing part of it is taking a back foot because of this day and age we're living in now, with the TikTok era and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Now it's more like being in front of a TV screen, being on TV or talking, going on podcasts and stuff like that. You know, and I think the writing part is an art that's going to be a lost art.
Yeah,
because
it's fading, yeah.
Because in America it's already gone. The sports columnist is gone. They're all doing podcasts. They're on TV now. You know, there's no more feature writing. It's 500 to 1,000 words now. You know, you got to be quick and all that kind of stuff. But even so, like, I feel like there's a lot of work to do in New Zealand when it comes to sports.
Yeah, there's definitely a long way for sports media people to go. I feel like we're very like a lot of the coverage you do is like revolves around like hype, and like hype as in like, I only say this because I've been like doing like boxing stories, but like, you know, when like a boxer starts out and they're like undefeated and stuff, and they build their record up. Like they're stacking up with wins and wins and wins, and they go undefeated. And then as soon as they get a loss, that's like their coverage gone, because their value at that point is gone in the eyes of a media person. And then also like and then at that point, the stories that are about them turn into like negative stuff. Like this person's like, why this person's not doing too good in the ring, and this person's never going to come back to the top. And I think the same with like a rugby team as well. Like if a team builds their hype up, and I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of coverage that revolves around hype, and then once that hype dies, that's just like part of that coverage is gone. So they don't really have those sort of stories to tell. But I think there's not much originality, I feel like, going on in the stories that we tell, like the sports stories that we tell. But again, that all comes from grassroots, and that's the missing key, because grassroots has stories that the All Blacks can never tell, right? Like grassroots are all guys who work like they're rugby players, but they're also like tradies, for example. Like they have other jobs and other professions. Like those are the sort of stories that we're kind of missing at the moment, I feel like. And I feel like that, I don't know, I'm only speaking from that just because that's just on my mind, but things like grassroots and club and that sort of lower levels, it's a start. It's just finding somewhere to start, really. Like I don't know how we're gonna bring up sports media as a whole, but we gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah. It's funny you said about the originality. You said nothing's original anymore, seems like.
Oh, like original as in like,
or nothing's.
Like I feel like there's a lot of stories there have already been like a lot of angles that have already been told.
Right.
They haven't been told before. And there's not many, like it's always the same formula where it's like every year or every few years there's always going to be a player that's going to be knocked down, right? Regardless of who it is, or there's always going to be someone we're going to hype up. But I feel like a lot of the original stories that exist come from places where we don't look at,
right?
Like grassroots.
Right.
That's why I was saying grassroots has those like random stories. Like even
Heaps,
like teams like those Heartland Championship teams, they barely get stuff all coverage, but they've got stuff like they've probably got random resources that we don't really look at because we're big mainstream media. We're looking at just the All Blacks and we're not really focused on the fact that I don't know what's a random team like Bulla or White Upper, White Upper Bush or something.
The second div guys.
Yeah, they've got like a tin shed for locker rooms, that sort of thing.
There was that was it a web series? Was it Takanoa College? The first.
Oh yeah, the Blue Wall or something.
Blue Wall, yeah, something like that.
Yes, yeah. That was a good, stuff like that.
Yeah, But there's heaps of those kind of stories, I guess. There's heaps of them out there that no one knows, but could be told like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it's a shame that we don't have the First 15 coverage, because I feel like First 15 in itself has stories that it could tell. Like, I think shutting down the coverage of First 15 kind of stopped the storytelling of that level of rugby, at least. So I feel like it goes both ways. Like, I feel like media can only cover what is available to them, and if you have someone that's shut down the First 15 side and we can't write about the kids, and again, as I said before, like, media aren't stupid. Like, we're not going to criticize high school kids because they probably have stories like the Blue Wall, like Tangaroa College, that we want to tell. But I think because of schools deciding they don't want to push their kids or give that exposure to their kids, that's just something that, it's kind of just blocked off media coverage. It's just, I feel like it goes both ways. Like, I feel like it's part media's responsibility, but part like the teams and the people that give us the coverage in return. Like, that's how I sort of see things. Yeah.
I had this dream about going to my local club and just writing stories, reporting on those games, and just putting them on the website, and probably take a photo of the player and talk about them, and just do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, everyone's got a story. Like, there's not anyone out there that doesn't have a story. Like, everyone's got a story to tell, regardless of. I mean, it's just a matter of, like, again, relationship building and being approachable enough for them to let them share their story to you. So like little player profiles like that, like where you go to like your local club and that sort of thing. And that's probably, I don't know if like local newspapers do that still anymore.
I think that's the reason how Slam magazine started, to talk about the culture, rather than anything else. Because that was their niche. I think there's a big culture in club rugby, that could be told, that you can tell all these kind of different stories. I feel bad for the clubs though, because they've never said like you can't report on this. Like, they've always been there. Like, they've always been accessible for us to, because they need it,
reach out. Yeah, because they need it. And I think this is what I mean. Like, it's part media responsibility too, because from a media perspective, there's a lot to cover. Like, we can't cover everything. Well, I guess if I'm talking about my own newsroom, we can't cover everything as much as we can, but there definitely has to be someone out there that can.
See,
I feel like
the way I see it, like, say if some network comes and decides, okay, we're going to cover club rugby in Auckland. We're going to cover all the games every weekend, and we're going to put these clubs on blast, who's the top, and then we'll talk to them and put them on social media, but blah, blah, blah. See, what that does automatically is get the locals start noticing the publicity, and they'll be interested in going to see a game. you know, and they'll all come. Next minute, you're going to get not just families of the players watching the games, you're going to get the actual locals coming to watch the games, you know. They're not going to go watch the Auckland game, they're going to watch their local club game, you know, and then they'll build from there. And then people start being invested in their team and all that. And then, you know, and then the structure of club rugby goes to Auckland, so then they'll be going to Auckland after that. So there'll be even more. And the next minute, we're going to have all these bars doing sports themes. You know, you come with Auckland's playing, if you wear your jersey, you get a free beer. That kind of stuff. Because they know people are going to go to the bars to watch games. You know, everyone's going to watch good games. I think that's the result of what happens when grassroots gets put on blast.
Yeah.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. I think if there was more coverage of the grassroots level, there'd probably be more uproar on the fact that there's no Manukau players on the Auckland side, right? You know, like people probably didn't know that unless you're involved in the club game and you've been following them. But
because you got to see them.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that guy's the main player.
Yeah,
and he's not getting picked. Hey, what the hell's going on in there?
I think the other thing as well is like I guess looking at the fact that we're a national mainstream media, like
taxpayers' money and all that kind of stuff.
No, like I think because
not like RNZ.
No, not nothing like that. But I think the fact that because our audience is like nationwide, right? I think they're trying to prioritize the fact that there's probably more national interest in this athlete rather than what's going on in Auckland club level. And this is just like from the perspective of like a news editor, right? Like they're probably prioritizing the fact that there's probably more interest in this New Zealand athlete who's representing the country in like, it could be like a real like squash or something or swimming or something like that. Probably takes more precedent than club level because it's just Auckland based and the only people that would kill are Auckland related people. I think that's just like the thought process behind some news editors. So I'm just trying to I guess from that perspective that's what I want to.
That's probably more responsibility of Sky Sports then, because they're the New Zealand's premium sports sort of show.
Didn't they have that like momentarily, like because they had like that Sky Sport Next or something, right? There was a period where they had this thing called Sky Sport Next, and it was basically just like coverage of like lower level sports.
Yeah.
Or like,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And basically just like they had it for a little bit, and then they just stopped doing it. I don't know if it's because there wasn't any interest or what sort, and it was just like.
But you can't even do that. I mean, interest or not, you're covering it. It's gonna happen. You know, it's gonna happen. Maybe it's just your production. Maybe it's your production, how much money you can put in production. Maybe you need the personality. That's what I mean. There's ways around things. You just gotta have the right things in place to make it happen. That's why I thought, like, when Spark Sport came, you know, that's the opportunity to go into places where Sky Sports doesn't want to go and build something up. It's not going to be overnight. You know, it's not going to take 1 year. It might take a couple of years, or you know, but you put the right things in place, make it entertaining. You know, you read from what they're doing over there in America. You look at what they're doing and try to copy some of the things, mimic some of the things. You know, but yeah, it's interesting.
We'll get there. There's still a ways to go for sports media, I feel, but yeah, time will tell. We'll see.
Who's your NFL team?
New York Giants.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because around the time, so when I started watching 2012, I think they had just won the Super Bowl. So I was sort of bandwagoning it at that point.
What do you think of Saquon Barkley's deal? It was $11 million.
Oh, God. I think he just did it because he wanted to. I don't think he was going to hold out, honestly. Like, I think he just did it because he had to sign something, and that was the best that they could come up with.
It was only a 1 year deal.
It was only a 1 year deal. But I do believe, like, running backs should get paid more. Like, it's a very important position. But I guess the argument is that they don't have much of a shelf life in the NFL. Like, you're probably only at your peak for like 3 or 4 years on average. And then it's the next guy up. And then as soon as you go down for injury, then the next guy up. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. Giants are, I don't know if they're ever going to win the Super Bowl anytime soon. I wouldn't be surprised if Saquon moves on.
Yeah.
Honestly, but yeah, I am looking forward to the NFL season. To do a bit of fantasy football.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got like this one league. It's like a dynasty, one of those dynasty leagues where like just draft a roster, and then that team just carries over each year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then you can make moves during the off season. It's like running a real NFL team.
Oh, yeah.
So and then you make trades. Yeah, I'm part of a real funny like.
So you can draft like some rookies.
Yep. So that includes the rookies as well.
Oh, true.
And then every year, obviously, when the rookie draft comes in, then you can draft out of the rookies.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is pretty cool. It's just like a real life,
Yeah.
but just like a fantasy thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that. Nah, that's the normal one. But I know some guys, they do the one with the defense too.
Oh yeah.
That's hard, are they?
Yeah, yeah. So our one's got like a defense as well. So our fantasy team, it's called like the Flogs, which is cool group of people. Chat's very funny, but what was I gonna say? Defense. We don't do kickers though. Kickers is a bit of a tricky one because sometimes you get points for kickers, and then there'll be games where like a guy's kicked like 5 field goals in a game and he gets max points, and I think best we're not doing that sort of thing. Do you do like NRL fantasy?
Yeah, doing it now. I'm in the money one.
Oh yeah.
So we got $50 buy-in. If you win one Premier, you get $100. If you win the whole thing, then you get the rest of the pot.
Oh
yeah.
Nice. I do NRL fantasy like every 2 years, just because that's the one that stresses me out the most.
Oh, how come?
I don't know. I think I'm just so invested. That's the one I'm most invested in. Like I just like, well, one, because there's money on the line, and then two, because every year I always seem to get like stitched up by some major injury, and it just stuffs up because I don't have many trades left for the season.
Right.
So because of that, all that stress it's bringing me, then I decide to do it every 2 years. So I'm not doing it this year.
Do you do the draft? Well, we did the draft.
Nah, I do straight like the other one, which is not ideal because essentially you're just gonna have teams you have similar
same guys
lineups.
Yeah.
So draft is probably the better one to do. Did you do the NRL.com one? Not the Super Coach, eh?
No, NRL.com.
Yeah.
So we do the draft. So I pretty much got the same team I had when I drafted, because it's hard, man. Because you just got the pot of players that haven't been picked, and you just go for them if you have an injury.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to trade with other people because no one wants to give anyone away.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do a bit of like NBA fantasy as well.
I haven't done that before.
It's pretty cool. ESPN one's probably the safest one to start off with if you're starting out. So that's pretty. Yeah, NBA is pretty cool. Like I do like a custom league one with like I change up the points a little bit just to make it a bit more sense. Because some of them are a bit like BS. Like the default one on ESPN will have like you lose a point for an attempt. Like that's an attempt. Like if you make it, then you get +2 or something. But just for attempting one, you get -1. So I had to change all those custom rules up because I don't know what ESPN's default thing is trying to say, but yeah.
Sweet, man. Wow. So your days off Friday and Saturday?
They vary every week. Like I do work weekends because that's when all the sport's on.
Yeah. I was gonna say.
So, but usually, my days off would be like a Thursday, Friday, or a Friday, Saturday, which is nice. It gives me a lot of times to do stuff and jump on podcasts and all that. So that's pretty handy. So enjoy that.
So with the podcast stuff, do you listen to much sports ones, New Zealand ones?
Like the ones on my own company, yeah.
Yeah,
because some of my colleagues have their own podcasts, so I'll listen to their podcasts on a weekly basis. So one's got like a rugby league one, and then another one's got like a rugby union one. So I listen to them every now and then. But other than that, no, I don't listen to many other sports podcasts or even like general podcasts. Yeah.
Do you think of doing one yourself?
If I can learn how to talk, maybe. Like
you don't have to have coaching on podcasts. Just talk.
I thought about it back in like 20, like when the lockdowns were happening. I was like, I need to do something to keep me busy, blah blah blah. Like, and I thought like, oh, podcast maybe, for just like over Zoom. But I was like, I don't know how that was gonna work out. Like, I definitely needed like equipment like this. But then that,
not just like talking to people, just talking to
we
yourself.
were just talking to yeah,
talk about the game or something.
yeah, just talking about stuff. So I mean, it was a thought that crossed my mind, but probably not something I'd revisit. Yeah.
I listened to Ryan Rosillo. Have you heard this podcast? Man, he's the man. I love how he breaks down the games. He just talks, and like you get a lot out of like 5 minutes of talking. He breaks down like the best parts of the game. Like I think what he does is he watches the games, the NBA games or NFL games, and just he writes notes. But he doesn't. But when he talks about it, it's cool how he says, "Oh, the part when blah 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 happened. That's when I felt they were gonna win." That kind of thing.
Oh,
his thoughts on the turning point of games and what made this player like lose the game or win the game or whatever. Like he goes into that kind of those angles.
Yeah.
That's mean, man. But he does it. He talks fast, so you understand it.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And you understand it, but I'm just amazed that he's got all this information. He spits it out at you in 5 minutes, and you got all this information. You know, what the hell? Where did I get that from? You just talked for 5 minutes, but now I got everything about why you thought about the game.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And that, to me, that's like, man, wow, that's. Yeah, it's a niche, but you know, it's if you're into that sort of thing, if you want to know the finer details of why games turn around and change, and the point it did, and the reasons why it did, like he back plays what led to that play to change the game.
Yeah,
he goes like that.
Oh, buzzy. Yeah.
That's mean.
That's cool. I know like when JJ Redick's podcast, I used to listen to him sometimes because he'll have like a different player on sometimes and talk about, and he'll ask real like I feel like thought-provoking questions, like, and not just like empty random questions.
Yeah.
And that's why I enjoy JJ Redick, and that's why I enjoy him on like ESPN now. Like I'm glad he made that jump over there, because if we don't have people like Kendrick Perkins, he pisses me off his random thoughts. I don't know how he comes up with his stuff.
I don't like his delivery. He's like, it's like a right? When he talks.
Oh yeah, even if he didn't have that delivery, like his just thought process on how. And then JJ's there to sort of counter him. So it's glad we have someone like JJ on the ESPN panel.
That's why like ESPN, they got all these different shows, like games they play and Pardon the Interruption and other stuff. Good variety, They got debate shows, which I like, and you know, they got Sports Center.
Yeah, so that's what we're missing here in NZ, just that variety of sports shows, rather than just like the breakdown and crowd and who else? I mean, Pacific Brothers was there, but I don't know, not really there. But like those like sort of game of two halves is what we're missing.
Yeah.
Sort of the Sports Cafe, that was a pretty funny show.
I like Stan Sports, how they got Sonny Bill on.
Yeah, it's different.
You know, a lot of people are awkward when he comes on and talks, and it's cringe. You know, a lot of people say that. I think it is cringe, but at the same time, I think, nah, that's good, man. He's real. He's us, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, when I talked about how in America the black people are black people on the shows, they're beating themselves. Like Sonny Bill's beating himself. That's us. You know, that's us.
I get what you mean. I don't know, like, I was trying to think of who would be like a player, like a current player who could kind of make that transition and be like the real, like show them real selves. Like, there's not many like personalities out there.
Ruby Tui.
Yeah, that's
see,
a good point, because I wasn't even thinking Black Friends.
See, if Ruby Tui was on the talk show, if she was talking white, you think, man, she's faking it.
But there's a reason like so many people were behind her, because she's like, she is who she is.
Yeah, it's that type of personality.
Yeah,
you know,
like we don't have anyone, like there's no one in the All Blacks I think is as marketable as her. Like when the Black Friends won the World Cup, at that point when she did that post-match interview, I was like, she's the most marketable person we've got in New Zealand rugby. Like I don't see anyone in the All Blacks who can measure up.
No.
Like you got other players who do their own, like Artie's got his stuff, does podcasts and stuff, and
Mm.
like there's other little characters in it. Like Dane Coles is a character. I find him quite funny. But there's not many
who was the last person? Like spokesperson, Dan Carter. Richie McCaw, maybe.
Yeah. But I think, like, to your point about who's like real and who has that voice and
yeah, you're right. When I think of Richie McCaw, that he's NZR to a T.
Yeah, he's the perfect representation
of NZR.
Yeah.
Because they don't want someone loud, quiet. They want someone quiet, like does his job, doesn't say anything but action on the field. You know, you don't need to know his personal life. You don't need to know, and we like that because we don't need to see that, and that's the perfect image of what NZR wants there. You know, and I think with Ruby Tui being who she is, I think that took them by surprise.
Yeah.
Like the crowd's behind her because she's real, and we man, of course the crowd's behind her. What do you think? Why do you think?
I wonder why.
Yeah,
yeah.
like we don't have to be bloody robots. No. All credit to the boys, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what they want.
Same also, that's what they want.
That's what they think. That's in the rule book. What they've got, like the manual of how the image of All Blacks should be. You know, our brand. Every time you get an interview, credit to the boys. You know, there's no room to be yourself, I think.
Yeah, and that's why the fans don't get behind, because there's no one in there that they can relate to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
they just and I think the fans aren't stupid either. Like they can see that. Like they know that players are media trained and that they say the same answers and that sort of thing. We're just waiting for someone the All Blacks savior, you know, personality savior. I don't know who that is. I don't know who it could be. Tricky one.
Sweet brother. I think we did 3.5 hours.
Really? That flew by. If someone I don't, you know, people are going to watch this and going to be surprised that I spoke for 3.5 hours, right?
Are they?
Because like that's how private I am. The fact you got 3.5 hours out of me that's an accomplishment. That's a miracle.
Sure wasn't the drink? No.
Oh, maybe it's partly the drink as well. It's a good timing too because I'm about to finish it. Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Thank you for having me on.
No, I appreciate you coming, man. Like I said, man, you're doing my dream job, man. And big ups to you for, you know, doing what you're doing and enjoying it. Because, man, you know, I think being a journalist, I know it's hard around the world, rest of the world, eh? It's hard being a journalist around the world because there's not much money. I think internet's taking a lot of that away from the newspapers because advertising's gone now. Now it's Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Like they're taking all the advertising now, and it's like a struggle for newspapers or media to get advertising. That's why they're doing the paywalls.
Yeah,
because the money's not coming through advertising anymore. You know.
The thing is, I don't think about any of that. Like I do the job because I love it. At the end of the day, like yeah.
But to make a living, you know.
Yeah, of course. Like on one hand, you want to make a living, but at the other hand, like if you enjoy it at the end of the day, like if I didn't enjoy sports journalism right now, I'd leave tomorrow.
Oh, bro, it's like, man, who would want to get paid just watching sport all day? You know.
Dream job. I don't blame you for having that as a dream job, man. Man. But yeah, we need more faces, more brown faces, brown voices.
Because you think of it. You get your media pass, you can go to all the games, you know, you see the players, talk to players, you watch the games, report on it. You know, you did the politics thing in the beginning, so you were over there part of history. You were standing in the bloody protests in Parliament. You're part of history. You know, your whole career is to follow history, and you're being part of it. So I don't know, man. That should appeal to everybody, you know, to be at the place where things are gonna happen.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I've never seen myself as like a trailblazer or like that's not what I wanted to grow up. I didn't grow up to be a trailblazer. Like it's just I grew up wanting to be a journalist, and you know, if it has an impact on people, then that's awesome. Like that makes my job.
I'm sure it will, man.
Yeah,
I'm sure it will.
But yeah, no, good chat, man. Jeez.
Thanks, Elijah.
Appreciate it.